Welcome back to the show. I'm your nerdy host, Annie.
And Mondays Weekly.
Thank you for coming back, Mondays. I appreciate it. Whether you, the listener, are a filthy casual, a hardened pro, or even just a mobile gamer, join us as we rant, rave, and ramble about games that we like and even games that we don't like last week. As always, though, we're here to ask the question, what's this game?
This game is Dead Space 2.
Released in 2011 by Visceral Studios, RIP. I want to go into this game saying I fucking love Dead Space 2. From the beginning to the end, I absolutely love Dead Space 2. It is, in a simple explanation, in a couple of words, it's like a perfect game. I honestly have like no notes, no complaints. Maybe one or two, here or there, but it's like minor things, like maybe too many elevators or something like that. But like, what are you gonna do? But either way, the game is the second in the series, and in my opinion, it's one of the few times where the sequel is better than the original.
That is a bit of a controversial take. I actually prefer Dead Space 2 over it's either my number one game tied with Resident Evil 4 or maybe second place, but by a close margin. But I still don't know personally if Dead Space 2 is better than the original because there's a slight shift in tone and how the scares are done. Very similar, but I they are slightly different, so it's hard for me to pick. But I will always pick Dead Space 2 as my personal favorite. Um, it's one of those rare moments where EA meddled with the devs just a little bit, and it didn't turn to shit. When Dead Space 3 came around, that's a different story because that killed the studio. And that was EA's fault, not Visceral.
Yeah, I'll 100% agree with that. Even though I like Dead Space 3, it's there's many problems with it, which we will cover next year. This year, we're definitely just getting into Dead Space 2. Kind of, as is tradition so far with us in the show, we cover Dead Space every October. We did Callisto Protocol earlier this month because I finally had a computer strong enough to run it. It was sitting in my library, and I was like, fuck it. Okay, whatever. As long as I don't have to push too hard, I'm going to ask if Mondays wants to do it. And you said, sure, okay. And we played it, and during the show, we inadvertently and advertently compared Callisto to Dead Space as a franchise and directly multiple times. And we're not going to do that at all because there's nothing that Dead Space has that Callisto does that's even worth mentioning. So, other than the fact that you're coming on for back-to-back episodes, there's no similarities with this last episode.
We just really need a palate cleanser, and since I'm kind of a Dead Space addict, you were nice enough to make it so one of my favorite games of all time, with Isaac Clarke being one of my favorite protagonists coming back and actually speaking for a change. Although since Dead Space remake came out, it kind of that retcon doesn't make a whole lot of sense now.
Sure, but I mean, either way, the voice acting for Isaac Clarke is done by the actor who does his like face model.
Gunner Wright, yes, yeah, he was
Gunny
the
or
face.
Gunner, right? Yes.
Yeah,
Either way, he also came back to reprise it in the remake, and it was more mo-capped, so that's why it was a lot more like lifelike and a little bit of a jarring change because it was less of a take on, more as a one-to-one. But either way, his personality I feel like did plenty, and I really enjoy his character arc throughout the game because he goes from rightfully being scared and not know what's going on to just being like, fuck it, we ball towards the end.
Yeah, it's not easy to go from a silent protagonist to a speaking one. The only time I can really think of it other time is would be Jack and Daxter, switched to Jack 2, which was kind of a fumble at first because they made him dark and edgy. The first thing Jack says in the series is, I'm going to kill Baron Praxis. Isaac's is, what's going on, which, you know, tonally makes a lot more sense and matches up the characters between the two games. I think they did a very good job. Uh, I'm going to try my best to compare it to with connected to the original Dead Space because those two were pretty much done hand in hand. I think they even had the same engine going. That's why I think there's only 3 years apart between the 2 games, correct?
I think that sounds right. Yeah, 2008 and 11. So yeah.
Yeah, which is it was a pretty crazy turnover.
And it was the very beginning of 11. It could have came out at the end of 10 if they pushed it a little bit harder.
But I really don't think they needed to. I think
No,
most
no,
times
but
in most cases I'll say the game should have baked for a little bit longer, a few more months, maybe an extra year. Now the game came out, I would say borderline perfectly. There's just my only complaints now is after playing the remake is like there's a couple of quality of life things I would have preferred, but like it's not really fair to say that. But we'll get into that later.
yeah, there is so much nice stuff about the remake. I remember playing it just Dead Space 2 just recently on my live streams, and I was just maining and abusing the Force gun because I wanted to just get it through it quickly. But I was playing on Zealot, so it was still a little bit of a challenge. But the big thing that I loved and I miss is in the remake, when you use the Force gun, it rips people's skin off, it rips people's muscle off, it tears them straight to blood and bone. And it is a absolutely visceral and violent gun. And I fucking love the Force gun. So once I reached the first shop in the game, because I have the DLCs, because that's how it is in the Steam purchase, I immediately just grabbed the Force gun, and I started the game with the stasis suit because I was like, I'm playing on hard, so, I might as well use the thing that makes enemies slower longer. But after just walking through, and after I put a couple upgrades into the Force gun, it became a moot point where I was killing enemies in 2 hits. I'm like, I don't need to stasis them. As long as my reaction time's good, it doesn't matter. And there's plenty of save points and auto checkpoints that even if I died, it wasn't that big of a deal. I wasn't playing on hardcore, so I didn't really have to care about dying or really be careful.
Well, there's a couple of moments I think, even with when you're overpowered with all these suits, the stasis is effective. Also, it just makes everything more convenient. There is
Oh yeah, there's
the
a
one
couple
time
moments where I needed to stasis, but go ahead.
the one time I really really utilized it the best I could was during the segment where you have to blow up these 2 giant canisters using explosives while a tripod attacks you. I didn't shoot that thing once. I just kept hitting with stasis and blowing up the tanks. Because when I played the first time I played this when I was like 17, I believe, that part gave me so much like I had so much difficulty with that because I didn't really know how to play the game back then. But at this time I was like, again, and you played on Zealot mode and used the DLC stuff. I did too. I played that, but I also played it on normal mode because I was just trying to speed run this game. Just so I was supposed to be playing it just for the make sure I can refresh myself on the plot points.
Mm-hmm.
And some would say, why didn't you just watch a video and it would take you 1/3 the time? And I say, in retrospect, that would have made a lot more sense.
Good point, but I wanted to play the game again because it's good.
I know from a gameplay perspective, I know it from like the back of my hand. Plot wise, I'm a little rusty on certain of the finer points, but now I'm fresh on them, and I'm here on this podcast for that reason.
All right, well, since we're talking about the plot and the finer things, I guess we'll get into the intro and the start of the game. The beginning of the game starts obviously after the beginning or the end of the first game. It opens up with a little bit of the Nicole dialogue that she had been playing throughout the first game or whatever, and then it zooms out same like it did in the first game, but this time we are focused on, or not focused, we are in the setting of a interrogation room / like therapy room, whereas in the first game it zooms out and we're like in the a jump seat for the shuttle to the Ishimura. So it's a very similar opening, and as we get to the closing, it's a very similar closing to the first game, which I really, really like when sequels do that, where they're like, hey, so these things that were really good and really worked in the first version, we're going to do it again, but we're going to do it a little bit different, So you're going to be like, hey, I remember that, and, it's going to be a good hit of, like, not necessarily nostalgia, but, it's going to be that, that image of Leonardo DiCaprio being like, so I like those moments where they cross over and you get to revisit and experience parts of the first entry into a series, specifically going on later into the game where you literally go back to the setting of the first game. But anyway, the interrogation goes through, and the guy is asking you a couple of questions about like what happened and blah blah blah. And unless you remember more specifics of this interrogation, we're gonna just move right ahead.
Yes, I do, because a lot of people are probably wondering, why is Isaac being interrogated? The last game ends with him escaping at the e27, destroying the marker, getting away, and a spooky, scary ghost of his girlfriend is there for some reason. Uh, what people don't between those two games, it's a little vague how long Isaac was in space, but a GovSec ship, which was the government sector, they found him floating in that ship just in space, apparently screaming, seeing things that aren't really there. So they picked him up and they took him to a psych hospital on Titan Station, which is on a moon of Jupiter. And he's apparently been there for about 3 years, but Isaac
It's a
doesn't
moon of
remember that.
Saturn. I double confirmed it during
Saturn.
the game.
I'm not a science guy.
No, it's okay.
That's
Okay, because I thought it was Jupiter too, and I was like,
I
no, that looks like Saturn. And I had to,
I think
I had to do some what is it? Astrology,
re, research.
astronomy,
I think
astronomy.
I just said Jupiter just because like Callisto Protocol is still in my head, and Callisto does take place on a moon of Jupiter. Unless I got that wrong again, but let's move past how stupid I am. Let's focus on the game here. I'm
Mhm.
actually good at that.
Yeah. So you're being like interrogated. He's trying to like know what happened, like what you saw, what like I think he asked you like why you destroyed the marker. I should have checked that part.
He's mostly focusing on trying to get a psych profile on Isaac, and in the moment you don't realize it, but later on it's kind of implied that they've done this exact same thing multiple times. But again, Isaac had he doesn't remember that for various reasons. And as time goes on, he's trying to figure out what did you see on it, and then Isaac is painfully remembering the marker. And as the more he's thinking about it, another figure appears on the screen. Annie, do you want to elaborate who that figure was?
Oh, it would of course be Nicole, who is the uh, she's like the ghost that haunts you in the first game and throughout the um not nearly as much in the second game because there's a lot more other stuff going on, but she definitely is there constantly and being like, "Hey, Isaac, I'm dead now," so kind of taunting you.
Yeah, she's more aggressive in the second game. In the first game, it's Isaac deluding himself that she's still alive. In the second game, it's she's constantly just
She's more of like
she's
a
like the voice.
demon.
Yeah, she's the voice on his shoulder, just constantly taunting him and well, I can just say straight up attacking him in a lot of cases. She's there to remind him of what he did.
So, as becomes her theme, she opens her eyes and mouth, which become like just like balls of light and radio, and she just starts coming towards you, making noise, going, "Brrr," and it's really annoying. But she does that multiple times in the game. It's kind of on brand with the first game. Whenever she's talking or in the room, everything becomes like marker symbols and like becomes like a sepia tone, and you know that you're hallucinating when it happens. And Isaac also later on in the game realizes he's hallucinating, and it helps, despite the fact he's insane, helps him stay grounded and focus on his mission when it comes down to it.
It's you could say to put it for lack of better words, it's like it kind of helps him focus on fighting everything. He's got obviously the physical fight going on around him, but he's also like the mental battle, and him resisting what's going on kind of helps him stay focused on and motivated. Kind of helps him stay in one piece, like figuratively and like literally.
Yeah. The interview closes with her kind of like jump scaring you and getting closer and closer. And then as the light gets closer and closer to the camera, it zooms back out and it fast forwards into the future, an unknown amount of time, but it's definitely years into the future. Again, Mondays is correct where it's implying that this exact interview or very similar ones happen many times, because it's unlikely that Isaac's just like put in stasis, because that's not the room you're waking out of, and just like dragged out whenever he's needed. It's not really noticeable, but Isaac seems to have aged a little bit over the two games. So again, it can be assumed that it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, he looks like about his mid 40s at that point.
Then the 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 light zooms out and it's somebody's flashlight pointing into your eyes, trying to like
Wake you
get.
up.
Well, you're already awake, but trying to get your like consciousness to catch. Like they're like he's like waving the flashlight in it, being like, "Come on, pupils, dilate, do your thing, come on." Like what do? And then Isaac like was like, "Oh, hey, whoa!" And he's like, "Isaac, we got to get out of here." And it's some guy who is trying to rescue you and get you out of there, and he doesn't really have time to explain what's going on. Because there is shit hitting the wall around you, and for whatever reason, he's here to rescue you. So you don't have any time to question it either. So you let him start to unbuckle you out of the like straight jacket holder thing. You're in a straight jacket, but then you're like in a chair, like that's kind of like straight
Strapped
up.
to a chair.
That's kind of like, yeah, straight up. So he has to like get you off of the chair, and then you're still in the straight jacket. And just as he's able to manage it, he is stabbed in, or well, grabbed and then stabbed in the forehead by one of the infector forms from the first game. So if you played the first game, you already know exactly how it works. And if you played the remake, you turbo know how it works, because that cutscene is fantastic where it turns to captain. But this is absolutely horrendous, and even though the graphics are now 14 years old, holy shit, it still looks fantastic. The guy instantly go ahead.
I say it all the time. Those 3 games, whether of varying quality, visually all hold up fantastically to this day.
Yep, some of the textures look a little smooth and stuff like that, but if you crank it at least like 2K, I think it looks fantastic, especially if you bump up the frame rate higher than 30, which is like the factory setting for it. The game is just really nice. And the guy, after he gets stabbed, the little thing kind of jumps off of him because he's already implanted like the DNA sequence in him. He instantly becomes mutated and like starts growing the big arm, and his face starts peeling off and his muscles start bulging, his eyes come out, and his throat. It is an amazing scene. I should have pulled at least that clip, because that would be one of the good clips to pull for the show, because woo, awesome.
And it's a fantastic first part of the game, because after he turns into a necromorph, Isaac just headbutts him and uses that chance to run off. And I'm not usually a fan of survival horror games where they take all your equipment away from you, but I think they did a good job with this one, because the Isaac walks out into the hallway of the mental hospital he's in, and there's just necromorphs everywhere. There's infectors, there's people in cells similar to his just being turned into necromorphs, and they're crawling out. And your only job is to run to get away from them, because your arms are still strapped up and you have no form of defense. And I usually don't like these kinds of things, but the segment is just long enough. It's not even a full minute, but the whole point is that you run, enemies are attacking you, you can get hit. It's not a moment. This isn't like an invincibility sort of thing. You can die if you make too many wrong turns, or run into too many enemies.
Yeah, I died like 3 times on there because I haven't played the game in a couple of years, so I didn't remember the exact path. And I'm playing on Zealot, so they just one shot me.
They give you just enough guidance to get there if you have quick reflexes, but they don't hold your hands. Like, they do kind of let it's like you could to lead you in the wrong direction slightly. So it's not a surprise. I died the first time I played that.
Yeah, and like you said, this little part doesn't last too long, and as soon as you get to like safety, excuse me, you start like getting through part of the psych ward, and you meet up with the doctor who was in the interrogation at the first cutscene. So he's like the guy who's been working on you over the last couple years, and he's mumbling to himself, looking over like a observation room or like whatever, like a lab or something like that. And as you walk up to him, he grabs you and starts talking to you, letting you know that everyone's fucked, you're fucked, he's fucked, and nobody is going to make it out of here alive, and we're all going to pay for what we did to you and made you do. Which, at the beginning of the game is a little vague, because you're like, huh? What do you mean? What happened? What did I do? What did you do?
Yeah, a reminder, Isaac has no memory of what's happened up until this point. All he really remembers is getting off e27, and then little moments here and there, but then waking up.
You
But
have the same
it's
memory as Isaac at this point. If you've
yeah,
played the first game and you open the cut and you're where the cutscene is, you have the exact same memory and knowledge that Isaac did. He remembers everything that happened in the first game. That's canon, exactly happened the way you did it. So your playthrough is canon. And the second you start in the game and you're like, wait, what's going on? That's exactly what Isaac's thinking.
yeah, that's why I think it's a really good format to explain the plot as well as because Isaac doesn't know. So when people are telling you, "Oh, you're on Titan Station. Oh, there's a necromorph outbreak. Oh, EarthGov is in charge of this for some reason." It's a very simple way, but it's very satisfying because you get to learn alongside Isaac. And it doesn't feel like Isaac's just people are just telling stuff Isaac already knows, which is always very annoying in any sort of media to me.
But before the guy can ramble on too much longer, he cuts his monologue and lets you know that your rig is red. And the rig, for anyone that doesn't know, is the spine health bar thing that Isaac Clarke, the main character, has, and many of the characters and sub characters in the Dead Space series has. It is a vital uplink thing that allows people to read your position, your vitals, and various other information. It allows you to connect to RigLinkNet, so you can get like hologram projectors based on it, depending on what gear you're working on. It integrates with it. It is a super hyper adaptable futuristic technology that unfortunately does have to be surgically implanted into you, but once that initial implant goes into you, there's all sorts of modifiable rigs that can be like attached on top of you, which is why you see a bunch of different rigs in the game.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so he points out your rig is red, and he's like, "Oh, there's a locker there. It has a health pack and a flashlight, which are both very important to you." And then, like Annie said, he says, I like the way he specifically says it. He says, "We're all gonna burn for what we did to you, Isaac." He's like, it's a very slight it's a very specific wording that I think adds really good tone for it because it's like, "Oh, we did awful things to you," and, like, Isaac doesn't remember. So but then it's like, somehow the things they did to Isaac resulted in a necromorph outbreak, which that doesn't make any sense as far as the player knows and Isaac, because what Isaac has nothing what does he have to do with creating necromorphs? He can't do that. It's a
He didn't
marker's
bring
job.
one with him. He didn't
Yeah,
like
he did
he didn't
the only one he ever
he didn't
experienced,
bring
he
the marker
destroyed.
with him. So like what's going
Yeah,
on?
he destroyed the only one he ever saw. So it's like, how do these things? How does Isaac and what they did correlate to what's happening right now?
And after he finishes his little speech, he takes the little
Scalpel.
the little scalpel and he like scares you a little bit and cuts you loose and then says a couple more lines and kills himself.
It's a brutal scene too. It's he really just he shoves it into his throat and just he digs in there.
Yeah, not even he's not like it's not a quick one. He stabs it into like the muscle and it's like, all right, I'm
Both
gonna
both
try to
hands.
decapitate myself.
Yeah, yeah. He shoves he uses both hands to shove that thing into his throat, and just pulls it all the way through, and then they clearly studied what happens when you slice a carotid artery. I don't know the word. The big vein in your throat because it was just real bloody. And again, really in tone with the events that happened with Ishimura in the first game. So they're showing like, oh yeah, people are still going crazy and offing themselves left and right.
Um, yeah, the entire opening is it's a really good tone setter because it lets you know Isaac doesn't know what's going on. He's a little nervous about what is happening, and shit hit the fan already to the level of where it was and the Ishimura, and even worse. By the
Because there's a lot more
and you
people.
don't even have a plasma cutter yet.
Yeah, no, he's only got the flashlight, which the no kinesis, no
It's a weirdly
stasis.
military like flashlight. It's not just like a mag light or anything like that. It's not just it's got like a pistol grip and a hand guard and everything like that. And it looks like the flashlight can like be aimed in any direction. Like I don't know what you would need that particular flashlight for in any circumstance. Like
I
unless it
I
has attachable attachments.
I just figured that they kind of reverse engineered the flashlight for this game because the plasma cutter in this game, short spoiler, is that Isaac puts this one together himself, unlike the other game or Dead Space 1 where he kind of finds one. This is one he just takes equipment that's a plasma cutter and combines with the flashlight. I think they came with a design for the full plasma cutter first, and then just realized, okay, we'll just cut the first half off and make it a flashlight. Just we want they didn't want to overthink it and like
Or make
overcomplicate
another
things.
model, because why model
Yeah,
something else when you could just cut the model off and edit one part of it?
yeah, and I think I actually prefer this design of the plasma cutter as opposed to the one in Dead Space 1. I think
The original one,
it's
I
less
agree.
goofy.
The remake plasma cutter is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, because they get the general concept of it, but they made sure to like lessen the goofiness of it. They just have the four prongs that aren't as giant and goofy as they are in the original game. They made sure to like ease it up. But that's why I like the one in Dead Space 2 because it's just surgical equipment that Isaac finds because he's in a hospital.
Right, and that's where you're progressing through. You're getting out of the psych ward. You go through into the guy's lab that you were just in, and one of his audio logs is playing, where he is interrogating Nolan Strauss. And if you are a huge Dead Space fan, you already know who Nolan Strauss is because you followed the side material of Dead Space 1, and his story is already a little bit known to the player if you followed that material.
Mhm.
So Strauss is also being experimented on because he has some marker code in him that they want, and they don't know exactly how to get out of him, so they're trying various methods.
Well,
And
there's they know
um,
how. It's Strauss is always saying it. It's the four steps.
well, yeah, you
They-
don't know it. You don't know that right this second. You're listening to a little thing being like,
it's called a setup, Andy. Everyone's like, "What? The four steps? What does that mean?" That's what we get them. All right, they're all gonna be watching this like the idiots that they are. They listen to me and you, and that's how it goes. About our Dead Space knowledge.
I do really like step 3 and how I can't handle it, but that's okay.
I'm terrible at step 3 as well.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. But he's kind of like talking to Strauss, and he's having a panic attack and breaking down, and whatever. The dialogue between it isn't necessarily really important. It's just trying to introduce you, the player, to Strauss if you like didn't do all of that obsessive following of the other stuff.
There is one thing in the dialogue that video that is important, where he says that I think we need to do. I think it's time to schedule another session. He doesn't know what say the session is, but Strauss becomes immediately agitated and scared, saying, "I don't want more sessions." This now, the sessions and the steps those are things that are constantly hinted at throughout the game. Even Strauss says it, but because he is a raging schizo, he never fully says what it is. So the entire game is what are the four steps? What's step four? And what do the sessions mean? And Strauss, even again after the doctor dies, Strauss gets visibly upset whenever you mention them because whatever it is, it's something. Again, he's also saying it happened to you, Isaac, because Isaac is patient 7. Strauss says he is patient 5, and they don't really ever go into the other the other 5 patients. But I believe they are discussed in text logs in the iOS game Dead Space. It's not severed. Whatever. It's a now game that you can't get. It's an iOS game that you can't get anymore, unfortunately.
I hate when they do
Sabotage.
that. I hate when they discontinue main story media. If it's just still silly little spin-off shit, it doesn't really matter. But when it's the DLC for this game and I can't download it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's all unfortunately, but unfortunately they don't do it. But I'll discuss it more later. I believe that was on purpose. I think it wasn't even just Steam was like, oh, we don't want to port this. I think they had a very specific reason as to why, and that ties into Dead Space 3 for the canon and their writing capabilities, thanks to EA. But we'll talk about that later. Point is, shit's going down. Isaac is now to know that there's another crazy patient running around the station called Strauss, and Isaac still just has a poorly put together plasma cutter and a rig that's very low.
Well, you haven't gotten the plasma cutter yet because you have to
Oh,
escape.
right.
You're escaping out of the psych ward, and I really like this because it's sort of the tutorial where in the first game you go on to the Ishimura and you already have your suit and stuff that you need to do the job. you already have a TK module, right? When you come in, because it's something you would need.
Yeah, all these things are already built into it, but they
Well,
just
not the stasis. You have to get the stasis module in
well,
Dead
the
Space
TK
1.
module is built into the is
Yeah.
seemed to be standard tech for your actual rig, but you need the piece to activate it. But there's the energy storage unit for it built into the ever seems like well, not everyone's rig, just Isaac's for some reason. I
Because
guess plot
he's
convenience.
like a tier above most engineers. He's like a tier 3 or tier 4 engineer.
Oh
So
yeah, I guess
he's
that is
fancy.
technically. Oh yeah, I guess kinesis and stasis are both technically engineer equipment, so that would make sense.
Which is cool how you kind of get introduced to it in the first game, but in the second game, as you're escaping out of the hospital, you see a guy being like levitated because of whatever
Surgery.
whatever surgery they were doing on him needs him to be suspended instead of like laying on a bed.
On a bed.
It's not very specific, but it doesn't matter. It's science fiction, and Isaac is like, oh shit, sweet. And hacks the thing and takes the TK module out of it and attaches it to his wrist somehow.
Yeah, I do like that. Yeah, that's the great part about the Dead Space universe. You find new technology, just slap it on your wrist. There, works.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You have Rig Link. You tell it to work. It works. Got it.
But I mean, it's shown twice now that in Dead Space 1 and 2, Isaac just finds equipment from other people, sometimes dead bodies, sometimes just random machines he finds on the wall, just rips them out and just hooks them up. But I do like how, as opposed to Dead Space 1, you get your kinesis and stasis in opposite orders. In Dead Space 2, you get the kinesis first because they're trying to really emphasize in this game. This is before you get the plasma cutter. They're trying to emphasize that you can use this as a weapon, and there's a bit as opposed to the original Dead Space. They teach you can rip the claws off the dead Necromorphs and use them as weapons. You couldn't do that in the first one, and they realized, oh, if we're going to up the combat in this game, we need to give the player more options to defend themselves because they'll be burning through ammo faster and they'll need more random equipment to fling at enemies. And I think it's a subtle but brilliant way to do that because there's a good 10 minutes of the game where your only defense is kinesis.
Yeah, kinesis and melee. But melee, up until a certain point in the game where like all enemies become like elite enemies, then melee for the most part is a very viable side option, especially if you're playing on Zealot and you want to conserve ammo.
Mhm.
A stomp is great because if you have the little spikes that are laying around, you can shoot an enemy's leg off and then go and stomp them. And if you're quick enough, you can also punch. There's a lot of different ways you can incorporate melee into your combos to mix it up, which you couldn't do in Callisto as much, which is the only way I'm going to really call it back. Like, I really like the way Isaac can, like, actually combat stomp. Really, really good example, and something I used constantly throughout the game is like when I would run up with somebody with a force gun, I would blast them, and if it didn't cut their legs off immediately, it would knock them on the ground, and I could just go stomp, 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 stomp until they stand up. Or if I didn't want to risk being stationary while stomping, I could just do the like standing side-to-side sweeping attack, which doesn't do as much damage as a stomp, but you at least can like move around while doing it. So you have a little bit more of a freedom. And at the beginning of the game, it's really important to be able to mix up your options because you don't have any of your gear yet.
Yeah, no, the stomp is very satisfying in all three games, but they also teach again when eventually when you get stasis, it's very satisfying. It's a good way to save ammo. A lot of times I would just stasis enemies, just punch them until their limbs break, or stasis them while they could still alive, and I just stomp them. It saves a lot of ammo, and by a lot, I mean like 4 or 5 shots maximum. It's a survival horror game, but that's a lot.
That's a
nearly
lot
a
in
full
Dead
clip.
Space, yeah.
Yeah, survival horror, 3 or 4 shots make the world of difference.
As you keep escaping through the hospital, you meet a patient who is in the middle of surgery, but his doctor got called away because of a massive outbreak of necromorphs, and he's still on the operating table with his guts all splayed open. And Isaac gets in there and he's like, save me, save me. And Isaac's like, oh sure, hold on, wait, who? Hey, is that a surgical laser, a plasma cutter? And he's like, dude, come on, just untie me. He's like, hold on. If you recall, all safety manuals say take care of yourself before you take care of others, and I'm going to need that surgical laser if I'm actually going to help you, sir. Now, in the opposite, Isaac definitely should have just uncut the guy with like anything. He could have like moved the tape. He could have saved this guy. He didn't have to go straight for the plasma cutter, but he did.
I mean, to be fair to Isaac, there's not a scenario you could paint for me if I was in that situation that I would prioritize him over the plasma cutter. There's
He knows what he
you,
needs.
well, it's like, yeah, it's you're not. He's like, oh, I either get the plasma cutter or we both die. It sucks to be that guy. I'm sorry. I feel bad a little bit, but after like the fourth or fifth time playing through the game, it's like, yeah, all right, buddy, just hurry up and get out of here.
He was already
Yeah,
cut open. Yes, that is a very good point, Gaseous Ape. Thank you for stopping by. But as I mentioned, he was still conscious and everything like that. And I'm sure if you would have just slapped him with a couple of the green goop canisters that you keep in your backpack, he would have been a-okay. All right. I'm not gonna have this back talk on he was cut open. He would,
yeah, yeah,
you know
okay,
what
no,
you could have gave him the plasma cutter, and then Isaac could have went around with the TK module and then beat people with his hand.
okay. See, that's a very good point, but counterpoint. If I give him one of my health kits, then I have less for myself.
Oh well, never mind. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, it's
Moving
also
on.
like what if I had like 7 of them? I can only that means I can only put 3 of them in storage at that point for later in case I need them. This is more important.
That's a very good point. I didn't even think about that. So as you're you're hacking the thing, getting the plasma cutter, and then like attaching it to your flashlight and like fusing them together, a guy runs in and goes and stabs the guy on the bench. So
Yeah,
he at
that's
least
cool.
got the rest of his surgery, I guess. Some
Yeah,
of it,
no,
I don't know.
I think he was going in for like a tooth canal. So I don't know why they cut him open for that, but it's the future. Who knows what they're doing then?
Look, man, your teeth are stored in the balls. Everybody knows that.
Oh, that's why it tastes like balls when I eat food.
After you grab your plasma cutter, now you're armed with 2 of your gear, and you make it through the rest of the hospital and pick up your stasis in a room where it needs stasis. This is one of the only parts in the game that has like a true like absolute one shot. Like explosives and moving objects and stuff, but there's not a lot of times where an enemy can just kill you in one hit. It happens a couple of times. There are a couple enemies that can do a one shot, but
Mhm.
whenever you go in there, you see the stasis module freaking out, and then you hack the machine to attach it, and you get it to attach to your thing. And as you do it, it misfires one more time as an enemy runs into the room, and it stasises him to like do a mini live tutorial telling you, the player, being like, hey, look, stasis will slow down enemies for a second. If you do not, as a player, do not dodge, which is almost impossible, or stasis that guy, he will one-shot you no matter what health, no matter what you do, no matter what difficulty, he will one-shot you in that thing. You're supposed to finish the tutorial and stasis him and like hit him or whatever to kill him. He's super easy to kill, but he can one-shot you.
See, I did not know that because I have never failed that segment. I've always just hacked it, stasis him, killed him. I did not know he could one shot you, and that is actually information I was not aware privy to. I guess that's
I-
actually pretty funny. When
Yeah, because like if you don't, like, I don't know, like to defend the developers on this part, if they didn't just kill you instantly, you the player could be like, oh, okay, maybe that machine is the thing that did the stasis or whatever. I don't know, but it quickly tells you like in that little green tutorial thing that pops up on your back, like press this to fire stasis. So it's really trying to tell you, hey, quickly fire your stasis. There's a checkpoint right there, so even if you die, you just get to do it again and just, not a big deal. But like you said, you've never failed it, so not a big deal because stasis is a really, really good power that if you're doing most play styles of Dead Space is an absolute crutch. You need stasis.
yeah, I would argue it's less used but more important than kinesis because there are moments. Stasis was specifically designed for like obviously slow down enemies, get a clear shot of them, but you could the way the fat's like there's an area, there's a splash area on it when you throw it, and I'm convinced that the fact that they made it is because when they were testing the original game, there were moments where you'd have 3 or 4 necromorphs on you at the same time, and you can't fight your way out of it, and the windup for your melee attack is too long, so they just keep hitting you. So what they gave you the option is like you because what you can do is you point if you point the ground and hit stasis, the splash hits you right around you, so it hits every enemy in your immediate vicinity, which gives you enough space to punch them off of you and run out. I think it's designed just for like that emergency crowd control more so than a weapon. And frankly, yeah, stasis for a crisis. Thank you, Abe. It is the game's design of if you are stuck, this we will give you the tool to get out of this, but you need to make sure you know how to deal with you know how to use it properly and make sure you always keep it on you. And the fact that stasis recharges in Dead Space 2 after I think the base level is like once every 45 seconds. It tells you it's very important because the combat in that game is more aggressive than Dead Space 1. At least in my opinion. It feels more aggressive.
There's a lot more rooms where you fight like 10 to 20 enemies, whereas in Dead Space, that only happens like once every couple of chapters.
Yeah, only like very specific rooms for like mini gauntlets. They do a pretty good job of not overwhelming you with just too many eggs to burn through your ammo.
In Dead Space 2, there's a couple of rooms that are just like war rooms. It's just
Yeah.
like you get ready to fight as many guys as you can handle. You're gonna get plenty of loot back, but like it's
No,
just a
no,
slaughterhouse.
yeah, you fully expect that though, because if they didn't have a couple of those rooms throughout the game, I feel like it'd become too boring and predictable. Just walking through hallways, oh, something's gonna jump out and get you. They do a good job of we're gonna throw just enough in there so you always feel satisfied combat wise, but we're never gonna let you feel comfortable with anything. They even again, I played this game like a bunch of times. I know it very, very well. But even in this overpowered mode, there were times I would still kind of like walk carefully when I was progressing through certain areas in the game, just because I'm like, I know something's gonna get me, but I can't remember when it happens in this section of the game. The stalkers. Oh yeah,
uh,
that's a fun enemy to talk
their,
about.
their first appearance comes up in not too long. And stalkers are like my favorite enemies in the game. At least their segments. I really like fighting them.
The first.
Go
I was
ahead.
saying the first new enemy in the game is introduced right after you get the stasis module. It is called I forget what they're called. I call them the pukers.
Oh, the guys that can spit.
Yeah, the spitters, the pukers. That's the first new enemy they show in the game, and I think they are a really good addition to the enemy roster.
They are the worst, especially when they become like their elite versions, because
Oh
their
yeah.
health bar is far above like every other enemy. They have range damage, they have AoE damage, they have martyrdom damage. They fucking suck.
If
They're so strong.
Well, don't forget the two worst parts about them. If they hit you with any of their attacks, the acid they spit, they slow you down for about up to 10 seconds, depending on which version of it you hit. And I think the worst part of it, of all of them, they do not have spikes on them. You cannot get a claw or a tail from them like the
Yeah,
lurkers
they
or the
have no weapon
slashers.
parts.
So you kill them, you can't rip them off and use them as a weapon. You just chuck their torsos for very minimal damage.
Gaseous Ape correcting us, saying that they briefly appeared in Dead Space 1.
Are they in Dead Space?
I feel like that is correct. Like they're not as often. In Dead Space 2, they're all the time.
Maybe that's it because I played Dead Space 1 many times, both versions.
I feel like
I'm
they're
not
in there because it would be a
I
big
feel like they're in there.
opportunity to not like. It seems obvious. Can confirm. Monday screamed like a girl when they showed up.
Kit Kat's also a big fat liar, so I don't care what she says. No, the spitters are. I'm not doubting that they're in the first game, but I don't remember. That shows how little they are in that game because the main ones you deal with are slashers, lurkers, and the babies, whose names I keep forgetting. Which the most annoying ones in
The
the game.
tentacle ones,
Because yeah, the ones with the tentacle. Oh yeah, there's
not
two
the
types of babies in this
exploders.
game. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite cutscenes in the game. No, yeah, so you get the stasis, you move on, and then shortly after, Isaac finally gets his first suit in the game. You get the first shop, so you can cash in all the gear you have after making your way through the hospital. And one of my favorite things about this game is it does Dead Space 2 has a lot of tropes in this game that I love when games do, but very few do it. The first suit that you get in Dead Space 2 is this Mark V suit in Dead Space 1, which is the best suit in that game. And I think
Yeah,
it's
it makes like sort of sense because you have your license because they never surgically removed your rig. Uh,
mhm.
you have all your credentials and stuff, and as soon as you log back into the shop and log into your account, they're just like, "Oh, hey, we have your suit in storage. Do you want it?" And you're like, "Duh, yeah." And besides, you need it. The next room is
it's a space, it's a vacuum.
depressurized, so you need a
Mhm.
vacuum suit anyway.
I just think it's so cool that again, you start the first thing you get in this game is like the best one you get in the last game. It also like raises the stakes. You're like, because the player now, if you played them in order, which I did, and I was a kid, I just picked up Dead Space 2 on because I found on a clearance rack on Walmart when I was a kid. But it teaches you that the stakes are much higher now because your starting gear is the best gear from the first game. It's like, so that means everything from this point on is going to be way better than anything I had in the first game, which is true because yeah, since you're on a space station instead of a ship, you have access to a lot more equipment, armor, gear, as well as weapons. Like
Like actual
some of them,
hard weapons, yeah.
yeah, some of them are actually weapons in this game, not just ones
You
that
have the
Isaac throws
Seeker
together.
rifle, and the detonator, which are both new government weapons.
Yeah,
The javelin gun is still a tool, but a gun. It says gun.
technic, yeah, and then but there's also the DLC rivet gun, which it's just
It's just
it's
a
just a nail
turbo
gun
nail
basically.
gun. So
Also, I played it for the first time in all the times I've played this because I got the DLC. I really don't like that gun. It doesn't feel
the
good.
rivet gun is bad. It
It
doesn't
looks
do
cool.
anything good.
It's only really decent in rooms when you're like good the rare few gauntlets you have because they don't do much damage. They don't have much cutting power, but you can load up enemies with nails, and the alt fire just launches them all in different directions, which is good for groups. But I tried it for about 10 minutes. I was like,
I wish
yeah,
it
I'm
worked
good.
the opposite way. If the rivet gun, like you shot an enemy, it bounced off of them and stuck into walls, and then the alt fire would like pull all the nails to the last hit enemy.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That,
That would
but
actually work a lot
that
better.
wouldn't make any sense as a tool. Like why it would do that though.
I mean, they kind of put that effect into the Dead Space One's remake with the Ripper Saw, the Ripper Blade, where in the original game all you did is just the alt fire it would shoot the blade off in toward one direction,
Mhm.
but in Dead Space Two it would they add a bounce to the alt fire, and the more you could upgrade it, it would bounce more times, which I think they took a page of the rivet gun, except they made it not terrible. The bounce in the saw blade is actually pretty solid. It's still erratic, but it's programmed to hit multiple enemies before it wears off. And I think that is a fair compromise between a great weapon and a terrible one.
Yeah, but after your first shop, it actually happens before, but during this beginning here, you are contacted by the first ally of the game, which is Dana. Dana, her assistant, is the one that was trying to get you out of the psych ward, and now that you're safe, she's trying to get you to the wherever she is because she apparently has an antidote or a medicine to help with your unique form of
The
dementia you're apparently suffering from.
one that will kill him, as Dana puts it.
So, if she's to be believed, which Isaac doesn't really have much of a choice because she did save him and is kind of helping him. She helped him through a couple of the parts beforehand, like navigating and things like that, through the hospital, one of the lockdowns, etc. So she has been kind of helpful. And she tells you to take the tram to where she is, but you go to it, and unfortunately, the tram is broken, and a big one of the tripod enemies jump out at you. You kill him really quickly, depending on your play style, or you suffer with him for a couple of minutes. And once you deal with him, you head off to the like apartment sector because you have to go through that since the tram's dead. Um, since you're playing on normal, how did you deal with the tripod, and what weapons did you use?
I used plasma cutter. I stasis him. I shot him about 12 times in the leg, and it killed him. Because again, the moment I got to the shop, I realized, oh, the Steam port of the game comes with all the DLC weapons and suits. So I immediately chose the special advanced suit that increases how your health intake, how much health you get, and how long your your stasis lasts. And I just got like the bloody plasma cutter, which increases the fire rate and the damage. It's like that carried me for the first 3 hours of the game until I eventually bought the pulse rifle, for like massive groups of enemies. So I played that entire game with only three weapons.
What was your third one?
the force gun on
Oh, of
your
course.
recommendation, and I realized, and I thought to myself, it's like I've played hundreds of hours of Dead Space games. I have never used the force gun ever because my go-to was always plasma cutter, pulse rifle, line gun, and the Ripper blade. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, you know what? I'm really overpowered right now. And since I'm not putting any money into my equipment, I'm just buying power nodes. I can play around with them, experiment. And I realized the force gun, the damage is good. It's not as good as obviously like any of the more direct damage guns like the plasma cutter. But I realized there were segments in that game that
What are you talking about? At 2 shots, most enemies in the game.
I maxed it out. And I'm talking about like the last section when you have to do that gauntlet through elites.
3 shots.
I did. Kit Kat will vouch for me in the chat. I shot a lot of them multiple times and they would not die. But
Maybe you weren't hitbox maxing.
Maybe not. But my point is, it's more useful than I just find the use of it just being that you could just stun enemies with it. You can knock them down, which again, much like the stasis, it gives you room to breathe, and then you have a lot more options. Uh, but there were again, every time I played this game, there's several segments in the game that gave me a lot of trouble. And when I used the force gun, it's like, oh no, this is nothing now. Even again, I was also overpowered with all my
Yeah,
gear.
the force gun is easy mode.
It made
I'm a huge fan of the force gun, and the next time I play Dead Space 2, I'm gonna make sure I don't use the force gun because
yeah,
a handful of enemies it completely like trivializes. The egg sac guys that have like a big egg sac on their arm, it does not detonate their egg sac. It just kills them and leaves their egg sac still alive. It completely wrecks the babies that explode because it does the same thing. It kills them without exploding them. It completely demolishes the kids/toddlers, one-shots them in most circumstances, launching their corpses across the area. And the last one is the babies with the tentacles, because again, if you hit box max and hit both their body and all 4 tentacles, 9 times out of 10 you just one-shot them with the force gun.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, it makes the final boss much easier, which we won't go into right now. I have always hated the final boss of that game because it has.
I killed the final boss in 30 seconds.
About the same for me, yeah. But the final, we'll talk about it later. But the final boss has one aspect to it that I hate in boss fights, let alone final boss fights. But we'll get
additional enemies.
No, the additional I didn't care about that. It's
okay.
insta kills. I don't like bosses that will insta kill you. I think it's very unfair.
Well, again, we'll get to it, but I didn't know she could insta kill you.
Yeah, I'll explain that. We'll explain that. I'll gripe and bitch and moan about it. But
as you go through the housing and the little district, you're talked to a couple of times by Nicole. Nicole is asking you like philosophical questions, being like, "Why can't you let go? What do you think I am? Who do you think I am? If you say that I'm not Nicole." She's basically tormenting you in a little bit of a psyche war, trying to break Isaac, getting to him to accept that she's dead, even though he already knows that. It's kind of like she's like, let me go, blah, blah, blah crap. She's tormenting him. But after a couple more little mini Nicole jump scares where she's yelling at you, you get to a different tram, like a proper train, and you're going to head towards the next segment, and you get on the train, and this segment I've always kind of liked because it's just a quick little segment on the train, but I think it's done really nicely, and it's a nice like way to get you to a next part of the station.
Mm-hmm. It's the one thing I think that Dead Space 2 does much better than Dead Space 1 is that the train's a good example of it, is that there are these different changes. They change up in gameplay several times throughout the game. The train system was very fun because it's a short segment, but you turn the train and start walking through it. You have to like fight your way through the train, you turn it on, and then the train goes nuts. You have to fight through it again, but then it crashes and you're sliding through it while it's going down. So you have to like shoot enemies as they're trying to attack you going down there.
And then there's a part where you have to jump across to another one because part of the train segment has separated. It is a really cool, like, action-y segment. Another instant kill segment right here where you can get killed by the train doors that are flying off at you if you don't, like, zigzag them. There's a lot of hazards in the game that just one-shots you like that. Enemies don't typically, as I mentioned.
I can only think of the two. The one that you mentioned and the final boss, but the ones that it's also that the moment where you jump between train carts is also a good example of the fact that it's like, oh, Isaac's suit is much better in this game, like when it comes to space travel, because the first game is just that you would awkwardly jump wall to wall and it sucked. It wasn't fun. It was very disorienting in a lot of cases. And now this game, you have
Like Iron
free
Man
flow.
jet boots.
Yeah, and it's still disorienting, but it looks much cooler and it's less annoying.
That part of the train also ends up crashing, and you end up falling out of the train into a little warehouse where you end up in an upside down segment. Fortunately, the game does not do this too many times, which is thankful because I didn't like them in Dead Space 1, the upside down, like a reverse aiming segments, especially on PC because the game was initially on controller, so I could have just switched to controller for this part, but the mouse's acceleration and smoothing is completely fucked whenever it flips the game. So it can be really difficult if you're not prepared for the upside down segment. Not too much of a difficulty in Dead Space 2. You're in a little warehouse. You can see all the enemies coming at you pretty easily. There's plenty of hazards in the room to help out with you if you don't already have plenty of ammo. This is a place you can kind of get soft locked in because there isn't enough hazards to kill everybody in the room. And if you don't kill them all, you can just end up like in kind of a death loop. So it's important that you make sure you have a little bit of ammo before the train segment.
They stuck you up pretty well in that game, in the train section.
Especially because right there is a couple of moments before the enemy's attack where you can loot things in the warehouse. There's a couple of green boxes throughout it.
Yeah, so then obviously the train crashes. Isaac gets away because he's got main character plot armor. And then he ends up in an area called the Sprawl, which is like basically a giant mall on Titan Station. It's an area where they're connected to the living section, where there's a bunch of shops, different stores and stuff people go to, different events. And what happens is Dana leads him to it's like, okay, well, we're in this section. The only way to get through there is to go through a Unitology equipment center, which is connected to a church of Unitology. And if you guys remember from the first game, Unitologists are crazy, and they were a big reason as to why shit was so fucked on the Ishimura, because they are religious zealots, and they saw the
and they took over all the military operations there.
Yeah, and they think that Marker and the Necromorphs are divine moments and beings, so they're just like, oh, let's all this happen. So on top of that, Isaac already has a personal vendetta about it. If you look at his the expanded lore of the game, Isaac's parents were Unitologists when he was young. His father passed away, and they refused. The Church of Unitology claimed his body, refused to give it to his family. And then his mother, I believe, she fully converted, went to go live with them. And then after she gave them all their money, so Isaac was poor and had to basically work his entire life just to barely afford college. Fortunately, he's a smart guy, resourceful, so that he ended up basically the top of his class and got an excellent job. But before the Ishimura, with all the monsters and evil going on, he already hated Unitology. He was I guess, would you call him a space atheist at this point, or because that's really the only religion they ever discuss at all in Dead Space?
I wouldn't necessarily even call it that because we don't know his personal religious beliefs. He just is like, I fucking hate Scientologists. Scientologism. I hate the fucking books. I hate the people who do it. I hate the fucking rituals. I hate this. I hate that. I fucking hate Xenu. I hate all this shit and anyone that's associated with it because it ruined my goddamn family.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Unitology, not Scientology. Lord Xenu would never mistreat us. Lord Xenu is always looking out for us as his.
I meant Altman.
His descendants of his.
I'm sorry, I typoed.
Altman be praised. No, it's like, that's crazy. I don't know how you compare those two things, though. They're nothing alike. Just because one thinks that aliens created us, and the other one thinks that one alien created us. Very big difference. Nothing alike.
Yeah. So you begrudgingly go through the Unitology section because you are trusting Dana. You have no other contacts. You have no other. Unless Isaac just decided being like, oh, I'm gonna just solve this myself. He kind of has to trust her.
Well, it's also very clear that while he doesn't know Dana, she clearly has his health in her best interest because she's trying to get him there to her as quickly as possible so they can get out of the Titan Station.
And then she can get him the medical care and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so he goes through the Unitology section, and this section isn't as bad as other Unitology sections, really. It's kind of nice.
Mhm.
It's kind of simple. There's a couple of like infectors here doing their infector thing because Unitologies like to get their bodies ready. But the section ends pretty quickly after one really decent like jump scare here. You're climbing through one of the vents, and after you climb
Yes.
out of the vent, the game has been doing it the entire time, so it's very easy to just get a sense of security because there's only 2 points in the game where something happens during a vent or during an elevator. There's
Yes.
only 2 of those in the entire game. So if you don't remember where they are, you can be like, is this the one? Is this the one? Is this the
Yeah.
one?
Well, and if you don't play the game, it's also like all these games. Okay, elevators and vents are safe places because you can't defend yourself in there. So it's like, yeah, it's not fair to attack you. What the game does is they throw these little curveballs so you don't expect them, and then the rest of the game you're like, it happened to me once, it could happen again. So you're even in these moments where you thought you were safe, you are now no longer fully safe anymore. They took away your safety blanket.
Right. So every time you climb out of a vent, he climbs out of it. He pulls himself like he lays on his back and pulls himself like this, so then he can stand up on his feet and he's facing the wall. And the camera does not automatically turn for you ever after climbing out of a vent. You just naturally turn you and your camera and you just go about whatever's on the other side of the vent. So you climb out of the vent and Isaac turns towards the wall, just the camera normally, and then instantly a cutscene happens and you get grabbed by Nicole and she starts trying to stab you in the eye with a needle.
Yeah,
Fantastic
and
cutscene.
it becomes a button mashing segment. You try to fight her off, and one of my favorite things in the entire game happens is that Isaac blinks and then realizes he's the one trying to stab himself in the eye because Nicole does not exist. She is completely in his head. She cannot affect the real world in any way. But Isaac is showing how quickly his dementia is progressing to the point where he had a fugue state where he grabbed the needle and tried to kill himself with it, thinking that he was defending himself.
Right. So this leads you to, as a player, be like, oh no, is Isaac an unreliable narrator? Uh-oh.
He's an unreliable narrator, but just like in the first game, it's not on his terms. He's not being deceitful to the player, except it's a completely different way. In the first game, Isaac was like completely denying the fact that what was going on, and then combined with the marker's influence, he convinced himself otherwise. Dead Space 2 is he knows that everything going on is not real, but it's just human instinct to protect yourself. It's a survival instinct to, oh, I'm being attacked by the ghost of my dead girlfriend. I have to defend myself. Even though logically he understands, like, no, she's not real. He constantly throughout the game, he's constantly saying, "You're not real. Stop talking to me."
Right. He's denying her existence. When we were in the residential section just a little bit ago, there's a part where you go through a kid's room and she's sitting on the bed and you have like a little debate with her on whether she's real or not, and he's like, leave me alone, basically.
Mhm.
And
Well,
it's just kind of leaning on Isaac, like his denial of her existence and stuff like that, which, you know,
as well as
pretty solid. He
yeah.
shouldn't lean into his dementia. That's not good. He's got a mission to do.
Well, then she also asks a question. It's like, if I'm not real, why do you keep thinking of me? So she's arguing, he's like, well, she's not physically real to him, she is real. Like whether he likes it or no matter how much he denies it, the thing he's seeing is real to some degree in his head because she's affecting him in a way that, if she didn't exist and she was completely not real to him, everything she said would mean nothing because they would have no effect whatsoever.
Right. I really like the dialogue between Nicole, fake Nicole or whatever, in this game and Isaac. Moving through the little church, this is the first stalker segment of the game. Some of the stuff is broken, so you have to like route right back the way you came, and the room like goes on lockdown and then unlocks down, and then there's a bunch of all stalker rooms are essentially rooms with a bunch of boxes, because the way stalkers work is they will run like at you like a Naruto run, and then they will like maul you with after a headbutt. So they do a ton of damage, but before they run at you, because they only have their melee attack, they will creep around and they will stalk. Will peek around corners. They will run around and get into position. Almost never do more than one stalker attack you at once, which makes them easy enough to fight, as long as you don't get yourself into a corner and you don't get yourself into a place where you can't knock them down or knock them out pretty quickly, because most stalkers are easy to kill. They also have spike hands, so once you kill them, you can use their spike hands to loot their body or fight additional stalkers. I really like stalkers, especially since throughout my playthrough, I want to correct what I was DMing you throughout the time. I wasn't using the heavy detonator, I was using the earth gov detonator because it has 5% extra damage.
Okay, I was confused because looking at the stats and I was like, that doesn't look like what it said, but I was like, I just thought this is a lot about me. I thought I was like, maybe I misunderstood what Annie was trying to tell me.
Nope, I meant the earth gov detonator. Yes, not the heavy detonator, the heavy duty detonator to say its full name, but heavy duty is too much, so it's the heavy detonator or the earth gov detonator.
What is funny about the stalkers though is I take the exact opposite approach than you do. I do not have the detonators. I don't have the mine launcher. I don't use any of that stuff. What I do is because they do not spawn until you trigger a certain. You have to go so far into their nested area to like trigger them, and they start hunting you. After that, I either run back to the beginning of the area where like they'll still come after you, like where you started, or I find a corner and I hold out there, just like because they could, like you said, they only attack one at a time. Sometimes two, but only one will ever hit you at once. If two of them
because you have like iframes after you've been hit.
Yeah, well, because and all my experience is that if two of them attack you at the same time, right before they contact, one of them will turn off at the last second. I think it's probably where they program so they don't run over you at the same time. Maybe they had issues with like doubling up damage. I just learned like in a lot of cases, I just pick them off when they run at me, just shoot out their legs. It's easy, especially if you have stasis. And I do the same thing. If there's two of them running at me, I stasis one, just take out the other one. And then once you get the one, it's much easier because then you start ripping off their you can start ripping their claws off and using that. And they do high damage, but they're also very susceptible to stun damage. Like one good shot from anything.
Yeah, you can knock them over easy because they run like Naruto, so they don't have any balance.
Yeah, they're also like the scrawniest necromorphs of all time. They're pretty much all like skin and bones. They're all the biggest part of them is their heads, which they basically headbutt you with them. And Gashi Sabe in the chat said earlier is like, I think believe spitters are female. I think you may have mistyped. That was maybe a mistype. I know for a fact that the stalkers for some reason are all female. There is a lore reason behind them, but I cannot remember what it is.
Cool.
Anyway, I think they're one of the.
Do necromorphs have sex?
No, but they're all based off of humans. Obviously, for some reason, only women could turn into to stalkers. I don't know why that is.
Because that's based.
Because they all gang up on you, and when they get pissed, I get
it. Anyway, once you clear the stalker part, you go into a little bit more of the church. You go into like cryo storage for them. When people die and their bodies turned over to the church, they're put into like deep freeze because once convergence and stuff starts, they need bodies and stuff for the rituals and all that crap. So it's good to have a bunch of bodies just on hand. So you go through the deep storage, and this is actually where, if you've ever played the beta, like the demo of Dead Space, this is where it starts. It starts in this little spooky cryo room. You go through a bunch of zigzag rooms, you do a little bit of a fight, and then you get to a bit more of the church, and then you get into like the cathedral, the actual like where they do like worship, I assume, and sing and come on each other.
And then funerals.
Yeah. Hopefully not the second one, because when you get into this room, it's where you get attacked by kids for the second time. They all like they come at you in a bunch. They jump over the railing. They come like all at you in a bunch. And after you do that, there's a little bit of a tripod, a couple of enemies. You get through them, and it's just a really nice segment because Unitologists really know how to pizzazz up a joint. Their color scheme is good. Yeah, no, their architecture is awesome. Good. Their designery is good. Their embroidery is good. They have nice cloth design. They're fancy.
Yeah, I guess we should make a quick side note. Talk about you said they mentioned the kid necromorphs. That's one of my favorite things about Dead Space 2 is that they do take they do utilize the fact that they're no longer on a spaceship, but they're on a space station where people live. Because one of the things that this Ishimura did not have access to, they had no was children. They had babies because they would clone. They would oftentimes clone the Ishimura crew for in case they ever lose a limb, so they could just grow a body and
Mhm.
like reattach limbs and stuff like that. So they had babies on board. They did
Really
not
good
have children.
strategy.
The children are, I believe, are called the Horde in this game because they never attack you one on one. They attack you in groups of 10 to 50, depending on what segment of the game you are in, and which normally is pretty unfair, except for the fact that no matter what gun you use, they will die in one hit. They are very weak, but their goal is not to kill you; it's to overwhelm you with numbers. Which is why the plasma, or not the plasma cutter, the pulse rifle is much more important in this game, is in my opinion. The pulse rifle is very good, very low damage, but you can just spray and pray in a lot of cases, just keep all the kids away from you.
Yeah, it also triggers like weak point damage, like if you're going to shoot an exploding thing or something like that.
Yes, it does that too.
Um,
Uh,
Once you get through that, you finally get to like the top of the church where Dana is at, and surprise, surprise, she betrays you.
Women, am I right, viewers of this podcast? Haha.
So, why does she betray us?
Well, that's because Isaac has information in his head that the unitologists really want. After dealing with the mark in the first game and surviving, which is a very, very, very rare situation, Isaac becomes something that's later known as a maker. He has blueprints in his head that can create markers. That is the secret third outcome of a marker interaction. Either you die and become a necromorph, you go crazy and kill yourself and then become a necromorph, or you become a maker, which is worth pretty much to the EarthGov or to Unitology, you are worth a planet worth of gold because you have information that you create a marker, which is either a tool to further like a psychotic alien religion, or B, you can create you're a tool that lets you create alien technology that could, you know, on paper be super valuable to EarthGov and humanity. As we will soon learn, that that is not true. It's every time people try to mess with markers, it always blows up in their faces immediately, sometimes literally.
It was kind of Isaac's fault this time.
No, no, that was Tideman's fault. Also, we should probably mention that there's an antagonist from the beginning called Tideman who runs Titan Station, who's an EarthGov executive, who's the one in charge of Isaac and kept him in, was the one in charge of making people experiment on him.
Memory loss drugs, keeping him doped up, keeping him sedated, keeping him on Titan so they could keep doing whatever they were doing for Isaac. To Isaac.
And the reason Isaac trusted Dana so much is because right at the moment it was found out that Isaac escaped, he sent all of his soldiers after murdering Isaac because he is too dangerous to be alive. And then so Isaac is like much more inclined to believe Dana, but as you know, we now learn that Dana lied and was trying to grab him for herself for the Church of Unitology so they can make more markers. And it turns, and as I think me and Annie have been hinting at this whole time, or we mentioned earlier, Isaac is somehow responsible for the Necromorph outbreak, but he didn't know how. It's because the EarthGov used the blueprints in Isaac's head to build a marker, which created Necromorphs on the station. So, kind of a victim blaming, if you ask me, but I can't say he's not. He had nothing to do with the situation at hand.
I'm gonna use the analogy I used in the last episode. He had a package. They stole the package from him, and it happened to be full of cyanide. He didn't give them the package full of cyanide. They took it from him. You know,
they stole his collection of plastic explosives that he wasn't going to use, but he just likes collecting it, and they're the ones who just decided, like, oh, let's play with this.
And then it exploded, and then they're like, wow, how could you do this to us, Isaac?
Yeah, they decided to take his stick of dynamite collection and just start smoking cigarettes around it. Event, that's Isaac's the victim here, but to be fair, probably should have carried around his big old cartoonish box of dynamite with him, in his brain while he was trying to survive. It's basically his fault if you think about it.
Rookie mistake. Another rookie mistake is having your big bad guy meeting where you finally captured the hero and win in front of a big glass pane.
and on top
because
of a giant tower in space.
a huge gunship comes up and goes brrr, and immediately blows the glass out of the tower and decompresses it. Dana gets absolutely gunned to hell. Another guy gets all his skin sucked off and gets blown into space. You almost get blown into space, but you climb into a hatch, fall down into a hole where it turns out that there's like a super tripod down there who is like trapped and he's trying to beat you up. So you run down a hallway and then finally make it to a little like clearing, and then the creature comes in and then blows a hole open into the wall. You guys get decompressed out into the space. Turns out the gunship is still out there. You guys hit the gunship and then releases its explosive payload. A bunch of explosive canisters are out there. You shoot the explosives, killing the big tripod enemy and blowing up the gunship. The concussive wave sends you back inside of the station where you land not with a scratch, and repressurize your suit, and yep.
Yeah, I should clarify that giant necromorph is called the Tormentor, and it's probably the coolest design in the entire game. It's just, and it's like genuinely terrifying. It's so cool, and I'm kind of bummed that you don't get to fight it in a normal boss fight. The whole segment's like it's just a chase segment. You blow off its limbs, which is cool, but you can tell if you look at the model in the game, it's just vaguely human shaped, even though it's made of dozens of corpses and it's got a bunch of legs. It looks like it's like, oh, what, necromorphs oftentimes are just piles of goo that kind of form into a living being. This one's like, I love this one because it's asymmetrical, because it's like it didn't grow right, so it just became something disgustingly new and horrifying, and you don't get enough of it, in my opinion. I really wish, but we get more tripods, which they're cool, I guess. But so yeah, Isaac lands on a section. He's somehow fine, and he gets a call from his new best schizo friend, Strauss, who's like, Isaac, you're alive, you're alive. He's like, Strauss, I don't need this. Literally, all my plans, quite literally, just blew up in my face. And then
Strauss is like, but I know the secrets. I know where the marker's at. I know how to stop it. And you're like, oh yeah, man.
Yeah, he said, well,
you would know exactly what I need.
Well, Isaac specifically says, I know how to stop it. Well, I know how we can stop it, because Isaac and Strauss are the only two people in this entire station that can stop the marker. Yeah, and Isaac asks him how, and then he just runs off on another schizo rant. Talk about the 4 steps.
Yeah. You go through a little bit more of the residential section. There, you kind of just backtracking a little bit. You go back through the shops into the sprawl, and now you meet up with Ellie, who is she was this morning a pilot for EarthGov. She was working with her crew and doing stuff, and then a bunch of shit happens, as we mentioned. So now she's fighting her way. Well, she's already to the elevator. She's at the elevator, holding it off behind one of those security cages that they have like at the mall, where they just like can close the whole front of the shop off. And she's just blasting everybody in the room. You kill a couple necromorphs and make your way over there, and both of you have a short conversation, being like, cool, I'm glad both of us are sane and we got our shit together, but neither of us can trust or rely on each other, so I'm gonna go do my thing. Please don't follow me, Isaac. And meanwhile, Isaac's like, but I'm in love with you. Please don't leave me.
Well, it's the only pussy he's getting. The only other option is his ghost girlfriend, and she keeps trying to kill him. So, the pretty Australian chick is kind of an upgrade. It's a pretty upgrade.
Huge upgrade. Ellie is, to this day, still like a #1 video game crush. She is a great character.
Mm-hmm.
Ellie Langford for the win. So she heads off, and she leaves you, and I can't remember exactly what your mission is. You just kind of know that you need to head to the government sector.
Yeah.
So you get routed, and you head back down another level, and you head towards the school, because you have to get through the school, because it's the only way to get around to this other part without going like the long way. It's the short way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Ellie's like, "Don't talk to me. We're not friends. I don't want to get attached to anyone." And then she immediately calls Isaac saying, "Hey, I found this weird twitchy guy named Strauss." And Isaac goes, "Yeah, I need him to save the planet or the moon. I need him to save what little humans are left on this station that haven't been slaughtered by zombie alien things."
And for
He goes,
some reason, Ellie trusts you because you didn't shoot her a couple of minutes ago.
"Yeah, that's what I consider that like one of the not a big plot hole, but it's like one of the, like the weaker moments in it. She just like leave me alone, and then within what I think less than 15 minutes later, she hits you up and says, "All right, I'll join you for your horrifying adventure instead of trying to focus on escaping." But
Right. I
I
don't.
guess
I
you
don't.
can
I
use
don't
it
know
as
what
parts.
happened in that little bit of time. Did like did she get to her ship and find out it's exploded? Did she go to the escape pod bay and realize they're all launched? Like, what did she find out in this little bit of time where she's like, so this clearly schizo guy mentioned he knows the engineer guy I just met. Guess
I
I'm
just
helping them now.
I just think they needed a third person because they realized we can't. Well, the only other girl in the game is now dead, so we need someone to balance Isaac, and we can't. It can't be Strauss because Strauss is Strauss. He
Yeah.
can barely string a word together.
Yeah. Strauss
Talks like Gino
sucks.
Bisconte.
Yeah. Let's see.
After that, yeah, and you go for the
Oh,
government sector.
when you're meeting up here, you finally meet up with Ellie and Strauss, but she's on a different floor, like in like a central hub to get to the government sector, but it's been cut off where like the main entrance is. And then Tideman comes over the radio, letting you know he's cutting off like supply and power to the station. So now you have to go up into like orbit above the thing that's in orbit and realign the solar array because the solar array shoots like a super high powered beam and goes and powers the capacitors and generators on the Titan Sprawl. And if you don't do that, it's going to run out of backup power and you're going to lose oxygen.
Yeah, so a big chunk of the game is like all the little. This game would actually be much shorter if you just like went from point A to point B where Isaac was trying to go. Except pretty much every step of the way, Tideman is fucking with them in some way, shape, or form to make things more difficult. You know how like in Dead Space One, every time they had something going for them, the Ishimura would fuck them over. So
Yeah.
it's like okay, at least the Ishimura is like, look, the ship's been destroyed from the inside for like the last couple weeks, and instead it's just like, oh, the one guy who really hates me is fucking with everything to try to get. A lot of times, like he knows it won't stop him. It's just like to fuck with Isaac because he wants him to stop.
I mean, he again to Tideman's credit, I get it. Isaac is a huge fucking problem, and Isaac is about to fuck up a lot of shit because they until Isaac directly fucks it up, they do still sort of have it under control. There's a lot of casualties and a lot of collateral damage happening, but generally speaking, the main deal is still kind of locked down and secure, you know?
Yeah, no, it is, but time is
But
really got
Isaac's
Isaac in
like,
the station
no,
in the
no,
first place.
no. You just cut off power. Now I have to go do my job. You made this personal. You just put me on the job. You just made me clock in. I'm pissed.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of I don't want to say little things, but like a lot of inconveniences that just get in Isaac's way.
Yeah,
Being able
but
to
I
turn
mean,
your power back
the game
on.
would only be 10 chapters instead of 15 if they didn't have that many hiccups. And I
Yeah.
appreciate the game being 50% longer than Dead Space 1.
Yeah, and I will say normally I don't like longer games because more often than not there's usually padding and just mediocrity kind of to fill in to make the game longer. I don't really get that with Dead Space. There's a couple moments where like they probably could have trimmed this down or like skipped this segment, but
Yeah, you didn't need
there's
to do
never a
as much
part where
backtracking.
the backtracking I don't mind specifically because every time you backtrack in that game, you go through multiple. Like I think you go to Sprawl 3 times total, but the third time's pretty short. But every time you go back, everything is different. It's never the same area that because it gets more necrotized. There's more like flesh walls and stuff.
Okay, I mean,
There's
I'll
new types
agree
of
with you on
necromorphs.
that. They do the reused parts of the same game pretty well. At the beginning of the
And
episode, I mentioned I like when they do like callbacks to a different entry in the series, but when you do repeated segments, you have to do it really well. And I think a game that does do it well is the first Halo. Halfway through the game, you have to backtrack back towards the beginning of the game, and you do the same levels you just did, but like in reverse, but with additional enemies, vehicles, enemy types, or weapon types, and different things are happening. So whenever they do it right, it's done well. And I don't mind the parts where you go back. I just, if they were going to cut parts of the game to make it shorter, that's where they could have done it. They could have come up with another reason for you to get from the end of where you're going to the next part instead of backtracking and taking like a bus.
yeah, but to the game's credit as well is that every time you backtrack in the game, it's not like I've played a lot of games where you backtrack. It's like you literally have to just go back the pathway that you came, which is very annoying. In this game, it's even Dead Space 1 has backtracking because a lot of times to exit the area to go back to the tram, you have to run back through the section you went through, which is never too bad in that game. Dead Space 2, every time you backtrack, you get to the same location by through a different path every single time. You never turn around and have to go back where you came from. It's always a giant loop to that starting point, and then you move to a different section.
That is a good point. Yeah. Loops are better than like literally turning around and taking the trail backwards.
Yeah, it's better to go in a bigger circle than having to take the same path twice. So
A good example of it doing that is right up here. So Isaac, as just mentioned, he has to repair the solar array. So he goes and repairs a like big freight elevator and takes the freight elevator up into space. Where he fights like 30 or 40 tripods on it, which since they're all like barely dangling on and it's going really fast, it's really easy to knock them off. They don't have like full health like a bunch of normal them do. Otherwise, if you had to fight 40 of them like normal health, that would have been like the most hell segment of the game.
yeah, no, it's very satisfying because all you need is like 3 or 4 good shots at their limbs. Like a lot of times you don't have to blow up their limbs. It's just like you just damage them enough till they loosen their
Till they
grip and
like
fall.
stagger, yeah.
Yeah, and then they just come in. It's also fun because they originally, again, it's a space elevator, but it's sealed shut, and they just keep breaking it. They just break the glass so that okay, now it's a timed event because you also have to worry about the oxygen. So it's basically I don't think it's specifically a timed event for how long you have to be on the elevator. It's you need to take out a certain amount of enemies first before your oxygen runs out and you die. Which in this game is I never upgraded my oxygen once, and I've never come close to dying.
Yeah, I think it by default gives you enough, but if the enemies stay on it long enough, damaging you, and you let them way down the elevator, then it can really slow it down, and you might run out of air. I don't think I've ever failed it from air on that part though.
I think I've died on it from damage, but I've never died from like again the air section. So yeah, the tripods are much more dangerous than the actual like running out of oxygen.
Once you get up into space, it's a little quick segment. The area is a lot bigger than it needs to be, but it's big because it needs to be for lore and like realism. So you go around a line like 2 or 3 solar arrays, and then the whole thing fires up, sending power back towards the rest of the Titan station. And right afterwards, Ellie comes on the comms, letting you know that shit's going bad. Enemies are attacking, they're getting overrun, and Isaac's like, fuck, okay, I'll be there. And instead of, like you said, backtracking and just taking the elevator back down, Isaac goes back towards the elevator where you were going to go down, and there is like a emergency like launch chair just in case like things are malfunctioning up there and the whole station blows up or the elevator is broken or something. It's an emergency thing. So Isaac takes the little jump chair, angles it down towards the station, ejects it, and then after it goes maximum speed, he ignites his afterburners on his suit. He ignites his turbo thrusters because his regular thrusters are nice and fast, but he ignites like jet engine thrusters, which why does his suit have that, and why can't you use that normally? If you have that kind of thruster power, why can't you double jump in the game? Like, what? Anyway,
why can't you jump in the game?
Yeah, exactly. So, you get blasted, and you like are dodging through debris and shit that are falling off the exploding parts of the sprawl and different parts of the station. You can see like whole towers and buildings, and it is super cool. When I did this part on stream, I literally like full screened the game and I just turned off my mic and I'm like just silent. Just this part
It's
is just super cool.
it's so cool. It's basically just a chair from a roller coaster, but it's rocket powered, and you get launched out into space with it. It's one of those memorable moments in the game because there's really no reason they needed to add that. They could have come up with something else, but they're like, let's just make this really cool.
Yeah, and then they make the ending of it even cooler. You keep getting closer and closer to the station, and you find a tower that has like the closest signal to Ellie, and then you go into the top of it. You bust through the ceiling / like ventilation shaft, fall down it, and then use the last remaining power on your thruster to like stabilize you, and then you like Iron Man land, and then you're just like, all right, cool, back to action.
The Iron Man land was this. I'm like, that was so unnecessary because every other time Isaac has been flung around in this entire game, he lands on his face or his stomach because he's just crash landing. But somehow it's like, oh yeah, this one we're gonna make him look really cool.
He
And I just
had to
can't
go
imagine.
get his girlfriend.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like the Iron Man land would hurt him way more than just like landing on his stomach because
100%.
that's 100% on his knees. And Isaac's like 45 years old. His knees cannot be that good.
I would like to think that his engineering suit is lightly powered and it has like shock absorbing, maybe like a gel layer, some.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah, I can see that being feasible in this universe.
Yeah. So you land and you come right back to the room you were just kind of in. The oxygen gets turned off manually. And you fight through a couple of enemies, and Ellie runs towards the tram with Strauss, and you meet up with her. I forgot to mention that when you're up in the like research center where the solar array is, it's an interesting like weird like break in the game because it's a completely isolated part of the station where there's like one guy that works there named Howard who really, really likes birds, and he has like birds all over the place, and there's like an AI who lives there with him, and she's kind of like snarky and like by the books and stuff, and they have this like weird back and forth kind of like talky relationship where he doesn't like and trust her, so he avoids her, and then he just likes his birds and stuff, and then you get through that part of the game by breaking her mainframe, and when you're in there, that's where Peng is. So that's the real reason I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's an AI that's in that controls that section of the station that works for Tideman, but she's also like kind of glitchy. And if you go through you find his text logs throughout it, you can see that originally he's just like arguing with her because she doesn't always listen to him because clearly she's listening to Tideman more than anything. So he starts doing things that would bother her, like he lets his birds out of their cages, and because they're animals, she can't control them. And she would like not yell at them, but she would like tell them to like return to your stations, which is just their bird cages, and he would enjoy it. But it's the more text logs you see, he's like, oh, the markers. You can tell the markers have been influencing even like the outer reaches of the station like that because he's like getting paranoid and angry and violent. He's like, oh, she's turning against me. Everyone around me hates me. He's like, I hate these birds, and to the point where eventually he says like, I want to go to bed, and sounds like he just goes to bed and like just dies in his sleep, and then you carry his corpse to a wall because it needs his specific rig to open the door, which is very funny.
Yeah, it's a weird like just lull in the game that it doesn't really have much to do with the other part of the game except it needed to be like a segment between you and the solar array.
Yeah, I think it's just wild that they rigged and animated birds in the game for like I think they're on screen for like less than 5 minutes. It's like that seems like a lot of work just for just a weird moment in the game.
This is the first time I ever noticed that when you open that door, the birds fly out of the room towards you.
Yeah, they do. It's like a light jump scare, but it is again. It's another one of those weird moments they just have, which is why one of the reasons I like Dead Space so much. Dead Space 2 because
sometimes you just come across a life ended.
Yeah, it's also like the only animal you'll ever see in the entire franchise.
That's a good point. Yeah,
it's interesting, but yeah, that's just a fun moment to bring up. But then yeah, Isaac, rockets across the entire station. Iron Man lands, and that's when he wants to go. He's going to help Ellie and Strauss, right? In that point.
Yep. They clear the room together. Tideman cuts off the oxygen, so they go towards the tram, which is now powered back up, so they can go towards the government sector. It gets jammed, so Isaac goes and unjams the track, killing a couple of tentacles in a big explodey room with tripods and stuff like that. Once he blows it up, go ahead.
That's the moment I mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast where it's like, I didn't even fight it. I did. It's like it's not worth it. I just spammed the stasis and just kept using kinesis to blow up the tracks.
Yeah, because it only
It's
takes like six like exploders to blow up that section. So as long as you just don't take damage, ignore the enemies there, and then just clear the objective.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, you have to fight them repeatedly there, and it's not worth the ammo. They can drop like semiconductors, but it's not really worth. Again, it's not worth the ammo.
Yeah, it's like $3,000 maximum. You might get a ruby one, which is a pretty rare drop for them. So like 10 grand, but it just wasn't worth it. But again, they escape. He releases the tram, and then one of my favorite things that can ever happen in a video game happens. Annie, feel free to tell what happens next in the story.
Orbital laser.
They're always the coolest.
Yeah, so Tideman takes that energy beam that we just turned on, and he redirects the current of it and cuts off every single tram towards the government sector in like a big sweeping thing. You see one happen, and then it comes in from the left side of the screen and just sweeps across, and Isaac's like, hit the brakes, hit the brake, hit the brakes.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh shit, and they look over, and then I love this moment so much. He's like, "Oh my god, it's the Ishimura," and he's like, "Oh yeah, it used to be like the flagship of the Planet Cracker series." And the two others a couple years ago, there's a terrorist attack on it, and Isaac realizes like, "Oh my god, EarthGov is trying to cover everything up," which is crazy because EarthGov had very little to do with the events in that one. Yes, they were responsible for the black market that they found, but that was placed there hundreds of years ago, so they could cover that much up. But they covered up the entirety. They just said, "Oh no, there was no such thing." They're covering up the fact that Necromorphs exist as well as the marker, or what the marker can do. They just said, "Oh, it's a terrorist attack," and Isaac goes, "No, no, no, no. I was there on that ship. That was not a terrorist attack. The same shit that's happening here is what happened there 3 years ago, except on a much smaller scale. It was contained to a ship." And then
just because of Deus Ex, he's like, okay, so we happen to be on the tram or on the track that the Ishimura is docked on, being refitted and refurbished so it can go out, because this is an expensive ship. It didn't explode, so it just needed the repairs that Isaac wasn't able to do on it, and a lot of Febreze. So
I still can't believe they tried cleaning that thing when there are entire segments of that ship that are just covered in walls of living flesh.
And the parts that aren't covered in walls of living flesh, the entire room has become like a mass of soup at the bottom because it no longer has the like mind power to become a wall. So it's just become like soup on the floor.
Yeah. Also, just imagine this, like, even if it wasn't like all the flesh and soup and stuff, imagine how bad it smells because that place is just covered in blood and guts. It's like
so much ass. Yeah, ass, nasty.
If you ever like been hunting, you can smell it from a mile away.
Yeah. But Isaac is like, oh, so like Ishimura, yeah, that is a horrible demon vessel, but it does happen to have world-class gravity tethers. It could literally hold up like a quarter of a planet, so like...
It did do in Dead Space 1.
I'm pretty sure it can just easily go bromp and just pull that thing forward, considering I don't even have to turn around the Ishimura. It's literally already facing there. And it just so happens that I do know the Ishimura, how to work the systems, where the gravity tethers are, and how to turn them on.
Yeah, he literally fixed them in the first game. So one of the things he had to do is
So this is where you just kind of like play a mini version of the first game, and I really like it. Isaac turns around, they go back towards the Ishimura, and my favorite line in the game is right here, where Ellie's like, "Isaac, this is a really bad idea," and he's, "Stick around. I'm full of bad ideas."
Yeah, that's like the closest to like the Marvel quips I'm allowing, because he only does it, I think, twice in the entire game. It's like, all right, I'll allow it, because it's also true. Isaac has a lot of bad ideas, but most of them are out of desperation. My favorite line, I will say, they chose the Ishimura. You pretty much only go through 3 wings. You go through the captain, the captain's nest, the medical wing, and engineering, which are the 3 that you have to get through. But they know it's like those are 3 areas of the game where the biggest moments happen, and they make sure to go through that. You go through the entrance where shit first hits the fan. You go through the elevator where you get chased without a weapon in the beginning of the game. You go through big chunks of the medical wing. It's like where we have to place the bomb, or
You go to the segment where you meet the regenerator, the
or
hunter.
you meet him as well as you freeze him, with the part where you freeze him. But it's interesting though because they don't mention or even show like weird flashbacks of the regenerator once. They make you go through the segments, but there's like no moments where Isaac like has like a delusion of he's there. It's like I'm always shocked by that because I feel like that was a big moment. I thought they would have like because when you go through
I guess they're bigger deal to the player than they are to Isaac. Isaac's just like, it's just a guy that doesn't die. Get out of my way.
yeah, and it's also they retcon that in the third game when they mentioned there's more regenerators. Like I always hate those things, but they do a great job. And one of my favorite lines in the entire game is Nicole obviously starts taunting him while he's through it because she goes, uh, he's like, "You can play cool all you want, but I know you. I'm in your head. Like being here rattles you." And it's like I was like, "That's such a good line," because again, Isaac, they don't have to make Isaac animate differently or make him say anything. It's just the fact that because he's playing it pretty cool. I mean, as a player, it's like, why, Isaac? How are you so calm about this? You should have horrible PTSD about this place. And then when you hear Nicole, it's like, oh yeah, he does have horrible PTSD. He's just really holding it all together because he knows that when it comes to necromorphs, if you let any of this craziness hit you, you're dead. So uh, they do show a little bit because Ellie calls him like 2 or 3 times on the rig system, and he's breathing heavily even when he's not in combat. Uh, the first time you don't go into combat for like a good 5 minutes on there, which is a pretty long time in Dead Space. And
Yeah, I was talking about this during stream. It's deliberately misleading in a great way that I like, specifically when they do this on top of the thing that I like. So I like when a game does a callback to a place that happened in an earlier entry to the series, especially if it's a direct revisiting. If it's a remake, it can be really good. A good example is the Resident Evil remake, where originally you go through this like L-shaped hallway and dogs bust in through the windows and attack you. In the remake, you go through that hallway, and if you have ever played it before, you, the player, are expecting those dogs to jump in and attack you.
yeah,
They do not. You go through, you complete a couple of objectives, and then later on when you come back through that hallway, that's when the dogs attack you. It still happens, they just moved it to the second time you come through that hallway because they're like, haha, you knew that was coming, but you didn't know when.
yeah, that's what the Dead Space remake did a good job of. They took a lot of the same scares, but they just moved them around slightly so you catch you off guard.
And that's what they did with this. You go through the decontamination room to get through to parts of it, and the decontamination room in Dead Space 1 is like a big combat room where it decontaminates and then enemies bust in and attack you. You go through and do it, and nothing happens. It's perfectly fine. You go through and you complete part of your objective, but it's not until you come through at the decontamination room a second time that you have the attack. I'm like, that's great.
It's also funny. It's very clever because the first time you go through it, again, you're waiting for the entire time for a fight to break out. Nothing happens, but they specifically add in the sounds of vents breaking in that segment because the vents breaking. If you play Dead Space for more than 20 minutes, you realize, oh, there's a fight. I'm no longer safe. So like again, I was playing the game. And it's like overpowered gear. I knew nothing happened in that segment, but still hearing the vents break with my headphones on, I was like, it would still unnerve me because I was like, because they do this game. I think does a little bit better than the first game, where like occasionally they'll just have silent necromorphs like creep up behind you, even like non-combat situations. Like there'll just be ones that come up from behind, and they always give you like 1 second to react to it. They'll make a noise, but they do a good job. Like sometimes they'll just come up behind you without making any noise and just grab you. So yeah, so I'm like constantly spinning around, like looking for any sign of movement with this limited visions, but they do a fantastic job of it.
Yeah. The Ishimura segment is pretty simple and short. Your only goal is to just fire on the gravity tethers. You get through it. You have to get diverted through medical, of course, and then you go through medical. There's a couple of like flashbacks to the first game, like a wall breaks open that happened in the first game, and you're like, okay, never mind. You get grabbed by a tentacle monster that like drags you in the first game a couple of times, and then it turns out that doesn't happen. Until later in the game where it does happen once. You get like dragged out into space by a tentacle.
Awesome.
But once you turn on the gravity tethers, you pull the government sector back towards you. You stop it from drifting away. And as you head out, you just take an escape pod. because I mean,
What it,
why
well,
why go all the way back to the tram? Because
yeah. You just launched an escape pod into the government sector of the station. But what I love is they specifically make you use. I believe, if I remember correctly, it's been a couple days since I played it, but I believe they specifically make you go through the escape pod that launched in middle of Dead Space 1 with the Necromorph inside of it,
Yep.
which causes the outbreak on the military vessel.
Yep, I do have that here in my notes. It is the exact same escape pod. They refurbished and put a new escape pod in, which is the one that in the remake dude locks in the Necromorph. And it turns out that it's like the guy he's been trying to save or whatever. It's the reason Hammond kind of goes like, oh, I'll just die here. It's fine. I couldn't save this one guy.
Shen.
Yeah. But it happens the same way in both the original and the remake. It just has a lot more dialogue in the remake. Mm-hmm. But yes, it is the same exact escape pod. Very, very. I'm glad we both noticed that because I'm like, huh, it could have been any of the 4 in here, and it is that one.
Yeah, they do a lot of little subtle moments like that. Like I mentioned before, like they just like the regenerator segment of the game. It's like they don't even reference it. It's like it's up for. I guess it's just for like the player to notice if you played the first game as well. And yeah, so then I believe that's the part where Isaac launches an escape pod into the EarthGov section and crashes it because there's really no stopping that thing.
And during this little launch, we get a audio call from Ellie. And Ellie is mentioning that Strauss has totally lost it. She no longer is able to control Strauss. All of her other methods of getting him to calm down and nothing is working, and he's attacking me. Oh, he has a screwdriver. Oh, and then he's like, step 3, you have to see. A little bit ago, whenever we met up with Strauss and Ellie, they were talking, and Strauss does mention what the steps are, sort of. He mentions 1, 2, and 3. He mentions 4 a couple of times, but not like he doesn't mention 1, 2, 3, 4. It's scattered. He mentions 1, 2, 3 in order, which is step 1, crawl inside. Step 2, the screws go around all tight. And step 3, cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in your eye. So those are the 3. Those are the 3 steps, and he's mentioning during this little schizo rant, step 3, step 3, step 3. I have to make her see, Isaac. And she's like, put down the screwdriver.
Yeah, because Strauss can't get to step 4 for some reason. So, yeah, so that thing. Also, Ellie losing her eyes, she goes, when you find her later, is like, oh, she's missing an eye because somehow she's able to fight off Strauss without dying. She goes, you owe me a new eye, you bastard. The first time I played that, I was like, why is that Isaac's fault? And I realized, no, that's 100% Isaac's fault because there's a moment when they're on the tram together. He had the screwdriver. He could have taken that away from him, but he just didn't.
Yep.
Could it have crossed his mind? You may have forgotten. It's possible, but still feel like I'm also blaming Ellie. She could have said, "Hey, Isaac, he's got the screwdriver. Can we just get this away from him? I'll get."
Hey, Isaac, can we put him in a straitjacket? Can I get your stasis module?
Or just they find like something, but they really, really underestimated how crazy he was.
And he had that retard strength too.
Oh, he's got that retard strength. No, and just before we move on, I just want to. So I mentioned it earlier, but like when they go back to the Ishimura, that's one of my favorite things in games is when sequels will return to locations in the earlier games. And I was thinking about this before the show started. I was like, Dead Space 2 does it, and the only other game I could really think about that does that specifically off the top of my head is Pokemon Silver and Gold, where you go back to the Kanto region from the Johto, and you can challenge all the gym leaders from the first game. And the Pokemon games have never done that since, and it's such a goddamn shame.
It is such a good Pokemon game would be like, hey, here's a whole Pokemon game. You completed the whole game, and then now here's the post game. Here's the credits. You went back to your hometown, and then, oh, hey, your mom lets you know, oh, hey, I got you a ticket. It says you can go to the Hoenn region, and then you just good to go on a tour of all the fucking regions. No, that would be too good of a game. But this isn't a Pokemon podcast. Fuck you, Game Freak, for not doing anything good ever with the world's most successful and rich IP. Fuck you guys.
Lazy fucks. But last minute I'll say this: like Game Freak is putting out an original game for the first time in years. It's on PlayStation 5. It is not Nintendo related. So how the quality of that game will really determine why Pokemon games are so bad. Is it Game Freak or is it entirely Nintendo saying, fuck you, you'll buy it anyway, which is what they do
Well,
every game.
it's Nintendo, Creatures Inc., Pokemon Company. It's that weird conglomeration deal. Game Freak is a very small part to blame, but they are strictly to blame.
That being
Moving on.
Okay.
This is not a Pokemon podcast. All right.
Yeah,
so
sorry, I didn't want to get up on this, but I just wanted to bring up how much I love returning to old areas in games from previous entries.
I'm really glad they didn't linger on it because they could have spent a lot longer in the Ishimura. You know, they could have had things ramp up. The Necromorphs only like start attacking on there because you're there, and the marker is trying to defend itself by getting rid of you.
It's a good 45 minutes to an hour long. It's just long enough. It's just enough to get that to get the flavor of the original game with like a twist of the new stuff. But it's just enough, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. Whoever the team that was in charge of this game did a very good job. They know exactly how much nostalgia to give the fans without overstaying its welcome, and being too confusing for new fans. But yes, Ellie lost her eye, and we should probably focus on that. Isaac crash landed. Ellie's lost an eye, and Strauss is still a crazy guy with a screwdriver.
Yeah, you two are separated by the fact that she got across by the tram, I assume. But I should have paid more attention on that part because I didn't think about it. You launch yourself across with an escape pod. Really easy. You got a rocket launch escape vehicle. The gravity tether has pulled back the thing, but that doesn't mean they perfectly realign the rails that get cut in half by a laser beam.
Well, Isaac they kind of just skip the science. Isaac just goes, if I can use the gravity tethers to just line them up for a few seconds, that's good enough. And apparently,
I don't know. Maybe they're like mag trains, so it's not really on the rail. It just needs it as like a guidance system.
Yeah, it's possible. But again, that's one of those situations where they very smartly avoid the specifics so that it's like,
who cares?
Well,
Video game.
Fuck you, science, whatever.
Fuck you, it's a video game. There was a loading screen, so they got here. That's how.
And so then
you go through a bit of a hallway where you see Ellie and Strauss, and Ellie already has her eye wrapped up, and she still, I guess, to Ellie's credit and also her discredit, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why didn't you kill Strauss after he took your eye? Why did you let him live for even a moment longer? Because you get to meet up with them again, and then she like beats him in the head with the pole and tries to like fend him off, and then he runs away. Why didn't you kill Strauss? He took your eyeball.
Well, yeah, it's like I fully agree with that, but I guess in the moment it's just like fight him off. But I just love the fact that you see Strauss running around with the fucking screwdriver with Ellie's eye on it, and every single time I see it, it doesn't make sense the way the eye's angled, because if you stab it into her eye, it'd be going through the pupil or in the iris at least. But it goes to the side of it, and every time I look at it, it's like, that's just the Neversoft logo, the guys that made Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yes, it just doesn't have the tail wrapping around.
It's like, yeah, there's no tail on, but it's the exact same angle. I'm like, they can't have just done that to the reference, right? Because it's like it's such an important scene, intense scene. Like it feels like a bad time to reference it, but it's identical. So it's like I think
it is weird because you are right. I haven't thought because unless he like scooped out her eye and then like stabbed it like.
Yeah. And Strauss wouldn't do that because that's not what the machine does. The machine's like
right into the pupil. So yeah, weird.
It's
plot hole. Fuck. Dead Space 2 sucks. God damn it. Fuck.
Yep. I ruined the entire game with my sweet facts and logic. I can feel my IQ going at 500 points just from ruining something else that someone enjoys. No. It's again, I know it's definitely just an aesthetic thing, because if it was just like going through the iris, it wouldn't really look like an eyeball as much. It would just look like a weird golf ball on this thing. I understand that. I just always thought they could have angled it so like it was close to it or direct, just slightly off or something. But
yeah, I don't know. I guess artistic decision. Either way, he scampers off and she scampers off because she's going to go keep focusing on the objective. She's trying to find a way to get into the government sector, because you're in the you're on the island it's on, but you need to get to the actual building.
Yeah, so it forces Isaac to go through a bunch of destroyed parts of the section as well as the mines, which it's always kind of confusing why the mines are right next to the government sector. I feel like those two things normally wouldn't.
Maybe they were mining it out and making more government sector. I don't know.
Yeah, it could have just been like, yeah, they may have just been digging up sections. It's very likely. But I always felt like the mines and the government section, you think they'd be on the opposite ends of the station, like opposite ends of the city.
Yeah, I
But
would think the government sector would have been built first and then the other stuff. But whatever. It is very
yeah,
weird. But
it
I don't
doesn't
know
matter.
how
It's
GovSec works because they are stupid.
mhm.
Uh, y-
Yeah, the
Either
mine
way.
section isn't the mine section isn't bad, but it's kind of the most. It's probably like my least favorite section of the
It is
game.
definitely filler. Out of all the games, this entire chapter could have been cut. You could have had the escape pod go straight to the part where you're at the gov sector, and the tram could have went like straight to it. You didn't have to go to the mines. This whole
Well,
segment could have been cut. But if you did cut the segment, you wouldn't get to kill Strauss. As you're going through one of these doorways, it's one of these classic panel hacks that we've been doing the whole game that we haven't mentioned because it's not. They don't put it in too much to be a problem, and it's quick and it's easy, so it's not really ever a problem. It's
it's
not
probably
like,
less than 10 in the entire game.
yeah, it's not that annoying, you know? They do a couple in the tutorial to teach you how to use it and give you the equipment, and then they do it a couple times through the game. But for the most part, it's not egregious or anything like that. But whenever you do that, you hack the 1, you hack the 2, and normally you would hack the 3, but the second you hit the second hack, the door automatically becomes unlocked, and you see Strauss start to walk through the door and being like,
Grabs you.
he's like, I have to make you see, Isaac, and stabs you once in the helmet. And let me ask you, Mondays, because you would be the only person I can ever ask that actually might have an answer to this. Why the fuck does his helmet come off every time anyone confronts him?
That is a question I've had since the very first time I played this game. The only thing I can
It's
think
like the
of,
worst defense mechanism. Somebody stabs you in the face and they're like, oh, okay, hold on. Let me remove your face
'cause-
shield.
because every time it comes off, is Isaac makes it come off. The only thing I could think of that logically makes sense using Dead Space's universe and technology is that I'd imagine. Okay, the way one of my
Maybe
favorite
he
things
was
about
trying to
Dead
make
Space.
Straw see his face to be like, it's me. I don't.
No. Isaac would not have done that because he was in too much danger. Um, the helmets are one of the first things I loved about Dead Space. It's probably my number one favorite thing, just the technology of it growing over your the technology.
Came out the same
helmet
time
builds
as
around your
Iron
face.
Man 1. Both Iron
Yeah,
Man 1 and Dead Space helmet. Although Dead
Dead
Space
Space.
2 came out after, so they
But
stole it from Iron Man
the
1.
Dead Space helmet is 100 times cooler than Iron Man's helmet. I will
100%.
die on that hill.
100%.
But the fact that it builds around you, the only thing I think is like that technology is that, but that's putting a lot of faith in technology. I'm imagining that maybe there's like a release switch on every helmet, just that you press it because if these helmets break, you cannot get them off. It's the only thing I could think of that justifies what happens. Like maybe, and Strauss is not dumb. Strauss is crazy, but he was a scientist when he was when he was by him when he's still a
Hmm.
normal person. So my justification for it is that he took the screwdriver and jammed it where the release switch was on the helmet. Maybe because again, maybe it's one of those things where a necromorph can't hit it naturally because they have claws. They don't have pinpoint accuracy. Maybe you need something like it's kind of like this is gonna this is gonna age you real bad. Like when you used to take a pen to a VCR or something. Like there's a little like reset button. Maybe
Nice.
Strauss just knew where it was. Maybe that's what. Maybe it wasn't because again, he tried. Normally, he tried stabbing Ellen in the eye. He didn't try stabbing Isaac in the eye. He stabbed him in the side of the head.
Yeah, I look.
So
I
that
don't
is
know.
the
It's
only thing that
confusing.
justifies it.
It's confusing. I don't know. Uh, I don't know.
It
He stabs Isaac once. The helmet comes off, and then he tries to wrestle down Strauss, and Strauss is lost it. And Isaac disarms him by like bending his arm, taking the screwdriver, and defensively and rightfully sticking him back in Strauss's own head.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't need to kill Strauss. You really didn't need to kill him. There's many different ways you could have dealt with him. You have different tools in your backpack. You could have cut off his hands. Like there's different things you could have done. I don't blame you for killing Strauss. You can't take somebody's eyeball.
I mean, also at that point, he was a bigger. He was more of a threat than he was any sort of asset. Because, like, yeah, he knows how to deal with the marker, but he was too far gone at that point. He was no different than like all the schizos that you saw on the Ishimura, like people that just like the lady just
Yeah.
like walked into a room, she was like sawing a guy open. So yeah, he's no different than them, except he was more energetic, which makes him way more dangerous. Uh, There, even Isaac tells him, or tells when he finds reconnects with Ellie, he's like, Sriracha is dead. She's like, oh, and he's like, he was too far gone. He's like, he was never going to be able to help me in the first place because
Yes, because he can't get to step 4 for whatever reason.
and
And
speaking of step four, shortly after you deal with Strauss, like what, not even 10 minutes later, Nicole confronts Isaac for the final time, saying he's like, this is your chance to step 4, and she talks to him saying, "What am I?" He's like, am I dead? Am I alive? Am I guilt? Am I your lover? What am I?" And then Isaac finally says it to himself as well as the players, like, "You're
you
all
were
I
my
have left."
everything, and I
It's like,
wouldn't be anything without you.
he says, "I have nothing left without the memory of you." And in that exact moment, uh, Nicole stops being spooky, scary, trying to kill him. She just becomes the Nicole that he remembers. And she's like, and step 4 was acceptance. The same thing that Strauss had a problem with that Isaac was doing the entire time. Isaac was constantly fighting Nicole, who was taunting him, trying to kill him. Is just that he couldn't accept that Nicole was dead, even though again logically he knew it, but he couldn't accept that because without Nicole in the situation he was in, he had nothing left. And if he let go of her, there wouldn't even be a reason to get up and fight the Necromorphs. There's no reason for him to live if he had nothing.
And a big part of that is his guilt, because at the beginning of the game, it's drilled a couple of times into Isaac's head that you're the one that sent me to the Ishimura. You told me it would be great. You did this. You sent me away. You
Yeah.
let me die. And,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not true. If you want to get philosophical, sure, whatever. That's not true. But Isaac has to come to terms with that, and he finally does, at least enough to satisfy this manifestation of Nicole.
Well, yeah, that's where it's very interesting. They don't delve into Dead Space. You don't go to Dead Space for like cerebral sort of like philosophical questions. But again, this was Nicole's not real. It's all in his head. But so anyone, if you talk to anyone about this, no, it's not. It's not Isaac's fault that Nicole's dead. Yeah, he may have convinced her to go on there, but no one could have known. There was nothing that could have led to that. But Isaac still blamed himself. There's no rationality to it. It's like if he said Isaac's rationality is just that if I didn't send her there, she would never have died. So it's my fault, and that's why it goes into like the very human part of guilt. It's like there's no rationality to it. He felt responsible, and that's all he could do about it. And so yeah, and like I said, he was fighting Nicole the entire time because he was fighting himself. He couldn't admit that it was his fault. He couldn't admit that he missed her. He couldn't admit that, like, without the acceptance, is like he'd have no motivation to do anything.
And
But
he would be
for
constantly pushing back against Nicole, who Nicole can't help, but he can help himself. And this is like a psyche version of himself. It's like a metaphysical version of his guilt and all of this crap. So if he
yeah,
can put closure on that, he can go back to using his brain for productive things and helping him.
it's like an argument. Someone would argue that Nicole in his head, the memory of Nicole was his ego arguing with him, and his id was like the Isaac you're playing as is the id versus the ego, which is obviously a very deeply philosophical, like metaphysical kind of argument to deal with, which is weird for Dead Space, but the argument for that topic could arise if you wanted to delve deep into it. But I'm not smart enough to argue these pedantics with you.
Me either.
So it's after that, it's actually kind of nice for a little bit. You're still fighting necromorphs in a horrible world, but Isaac no longer has to fight with Nicole.
He
Instead, she's
feels
actually helping
light
him.
finally.
Yeah, and Nicole actually helps him because at some point Tideman turns off all the connections to the stores, the benches, his objective. He doesn't have an objective. So Nicole gives him one.
Yeah, that's a really nice part. But before we get to that one real quick, we are at the end of the mine, and Ellie fixes up a mining machine. And as you come up to her, she's like, she notices that you like are in a different mood, and he mentions that Strauss is gone, and he could never reach step 4, so he could never truly help me. He helped as much as he could, and now he's gone. So he's just like it for Isaac. He's like in a good mood now. He ends up helping her put together the mining rig. He finds a new battery and a new circuit board, puts them in, and goes to fire it up. And Ellie is like, it's not starting up. Hold on, I'm gonna try some stuff up here. And Isaac's like, or I can just rewire it. And she's like, what? And he's like,
Nothing.
Women. And then he rewires it with another one of the stupid little circle-y mini games, and then gets it fired up. And she's like, "Oh, I did it! It was all me. All right, now let me turn around and let you on here." And now this is the first and like one of the only times I've noticed like a problem in the game when she turns the thing around. I guess they didn't expect you to look at it or whatever, but it completely clips into the wall that it's turning next to.
Does it really? I never noticed that.
It clips so bad.
I never noticed because I was always just focusing. It's another mini gauntlet. It's not very difficult. It's like a handful of slashes and mostly like the horde children. So it's just take them down. But it's just enough to keep me distracted from paying attention. But yeah, that's pretty funny. I didn't know that.
You get on the miner and you mine through a bunch of organic mass and stuff. And I asked during the stream, I don't know exactly how Ellie knows exactly where she's going, but maybe she has a map in there. I don't know, whatever. But she mines through, and you're on top of the deck defending her and you and the machine from all the Necromorphs as it's making tons of noise and literally running them over and going through their nests and stuff. You reach the end of this mining tunnel, and you get to a big wall that it separates the outside in like cave area to the inside of the government sector. It's not a door, it's just a huge wall. And then Ellie's like, well, we have a big drill, and drills through it. And cut to black, Isaac wakes up, and she's on the bottom floor, and you're on the top floor. And this is another example of, wait, what? This is an objective in the game? I have to find a way down to her? What do you mean? I have jet booster, jet jump. I can literally just hop and just... Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
fine.
survival horror games love using that logic. I do want to say that truck, the drill segment, I feel like that's a direct reference to Resident Evil 4 because there's a moment in that game where the main characters Leon and Ashley had to take a truck to drive down like this weird underground pathway. Don't really know why they took a truck. They didn't really have to. It was just it would have just been like a slightly long walk where Ashley drives the truck and Leon's in the back of it just shooting enemies chasing after them. And since we all know that Dead Space is heavily inspired by Resident Evil 4 in the gameplay sense and also like a lot of the weird horror aesthetic, I'm pretty sure the drill was a direct reference to that truck driving scene. But call me crazy, but I believe that.
It's possible. Like, Dead Space is, I mean, if you think about it, just like kind of an homage to that sort of genre. It's the over-the-shoulder, like, action zombie killing game, you know? So it's sort of in there. I wouldn't be shocked if a developer told me that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then it's like Ellie's like, "Oh, come down here." More of the same. It's like I'm not. It sounds like I'm being blasé about it. It's like, but that's just what the game is like. You go through the map, you're the area, trying to find your way down. The main difference there is when you get to the government sector, there are significantly more elite necromorphs. The ones that are like they turn black because they
the dreaded so black ones.
I know the value of the area just goes down crazy, but also it makes sense because there's so many of the black ones and all the architecture and painting in the area is just all white. It matches perfectly.
Moving on.
Yeah.
She splits up because she's going to go look for a way out of there. And you fight off a couple of necromorphs and run into like a firing squad. As you sneak past them, which isn't really hard because there just happens to be a door they weren't guarding right there. You just go into a door, you climb up through some vents, and you unplug one battery cell that apparently compromises the entire facility. And then the necromorphs get in, slaughter a bunch of people, and you make your way down towards Ellie, where she's at the gunship. You help clear out the way. You meet up with Ellie, and she's in the gunship running through all the pre-flight checklist and everything like that. And now she does mention that the nav is shot, which would imply that it doesn't have autopilot or at least like auto navigation or at least a map or something, you know, there's something wrong with the navigational systems of it. Now, fortunately, Ellie is a pilot and she could fly it manually, probably if she needed to, and she can, so it's not a big deal. But Isaac takes a quick moment and thinks, and this is great because it's not like Isaac doesn't say it out loud. It's not like he thinks it and you hear it as a player. He is looking at the console. Ellie's talking to him, and he turns around and he grimaces for just a second, and then he turns around and starts launching the shuttle.
Hmm. Because he, and then again, it doesn't go super deep to it, but he just says, "I lost Nicole. I can't lose another person." He's like, he even let Strauss's death affect him negatively, even though Strauss objectively had to die. But he's just he had a chance. He's like, "Oh, I could save one person and not have this guilt." I don't even think it's not even like a romantic thing. He's just sick of the people that he's become sort of close, even like sort of close, not like super close. He's just sick of these people dying. Like everyone, all his entire crew for the first game died. His girl Nicole died. Anyone that he became friendly with ever has been just slaughtered. And Ellie was the one chance. She was in a gunship, like fueled off the in a section that's like pretty much dead. There's no one around him. She got off. She could get off scot free. And then he just that good scene where he's like leans after Ellie. He's like he launches the ship. He like leans against the wall, just slides on the floor, and then it pans off, and you see Nicole in the exact same pose on the other side of the door frame.
Yeah, it's a really good shot. You two have a little bit of a conversation. She talks about like finally ending this because she knows how to, and she's like, "Can you just make us whole, Isaac?" And at that point, I was like, you know what? I thought you were good. You turned all like good and sparkly, and you went back to not being spooky and stuff like that. But now you're telling me the line.
Well, yeah, even though she's not crazy scary anymore, she's still saying the same thing. She kept throughout
Mm-hmm.
the game. She keeps saying, "Make us whole." And again, that's one of my favorite things. Make us whole and convergence. They never explain what those two things mean. They just keep saying it. And she reaches out to him, like, "Touch me, Isaac," and he just goes, "I don't think that's a good idea right now," and just moves on past it. So like in the moment, Isaac's not picking up on this because he's just tired and his goal is right in front. He's at the goal line, so he's just he keep moving. As the player, it's still like, what happens if those two touch? Like what if they make us whole? So then Isaac just keeps going through. But one of my favorite things is you mentioned that he moves a single power cell and it's just like takes out all the security and the lights, so all the Necromorphs can just swarm all the Earth's Gov soldiers. What I love is that the room that you do that in, it's like in a balcony with like a bunch of like a window, so you can just see down. You can just see all the Necromorphs like charging the army of soldiers. It's so cool. But if you have a keen eye, you pay attention, you can see a different Necromorph walk in there. A tall bipedal one that has black skin, has 5 eyes on it, which is later very important. It's called the Ubermorph, which is one of my favorite Necromorphs in the franchise. Except I hate dealing with it. Did you ever catch that, Annie?
Yeah. Not on this
It's
playthrough. I didn't catch it because like it's one of those things that I knew happened. So I'm like, whatever. I just WATP starting soon. I just need to get through this. So
mhm. It's
yes,
just
but
so
that
cool.
is a nice attention to detail because it does tease what's about to happen in a couple of more rooms.
Mhm. Yeah, more of it. That's where again Titan shuts off. There's like the nav systems shut off. Titan shuts off like a lot of the connections around here. So Isaac doesn't have his objective marker anymore. And then Ellie, this may have already no. This happens after this part. Nicole goes, "Oh well, I can help you," and then she gives him the objective marker because she's the one thing that can show him where the marker is. It's like, oh, that's such a cool, like weird meta thing.
Yeah,
And
because
it's also like
she's like
terrifying.
sending him like psychic radio waves to like tell him where the marker is, and Tideman shut off everything, so your actual marker isn't working, and then after that it starts working because like you now programmed it through Nicole telling you the location through like divining it. It's really interesting how like once you start working with Nicole, you just have like minor superpowers just a little bit. You're just like, oh, cool.
It's also like in hindsight, in the moment, it's like, oh, it's actually kind of intimidating because again, one of the things I just gonna pick up on, but you kind of do. It's that, oh, Nicole isn't just in his head. That's like an actual connection to the marker, like the one nearby that Isaac created. So it's like, oh, it's a very subtle like creepiness. It's like, oh, there's even more to this than I thought. I thought Isaac was in the clear. It's like maybe not, because his brain is still has some source of like a receiver for this bullshit, because now he has a magical blue line in his head that shows him where he needs to go.
Magical blue line. So once you follow that blue line, you walk out to a big observational deck where you can see the marker that has been talked about since the beginning of the game. And you've seen mini versions through the labs that you've been progressing through and stuff like that. Little crystalline ones in mineral stuff, and all sorts of other things being formed. Like, they're trying to mass produce markers and make the successful formula to get the right signal to produce from it. Some people are trying to produce it without the signal that induces dementia, but it doesn't seem like it's possible.
Mhm.
So it's just pretty cool because you come across it and you expect it to be like, or at least the player may expect it to be similar to markers you've seen. But no, it is literally like a skyscraper. It is huge.
Yeah, the red marker in Dead Space 1, there's no specific size for it, but I always attribute it's roughly 12 to 20 feet tall. It's very big, but it's still reasonable, something that you can carry around with your kinesis. The marker in Dead Space 2, the one that they use Isaac to build, it's probably it's a couple thousand feet tall. It is hundreds of times bigger than the one in Dead Space 1.
Yeah, and it's like as big around as like a couple redwoods. It's very, very large.
And Isaac goes up and is like, Jesus Christ, I built that. And Nicole's, yes, convergence is at hand. And I still love the fact that even in Dead Space 2, they never say what convergence is. It's just something that
not in
happening.
2. We will talk about that next year, what it is.
Yeah.
Tideman comes over and starts yelling at you that you've triggered a convergence event because you let all these people in here. We didn't expect there to be so many bodies. And then gets kind of like sucked into a vortex sort of deal.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, that's funny because he gets sucked into a vortex. And there's like a bright light and explosion for the marker with all these necromorphs nearby. That is the beginning of the convergence. But again, it's still like, what is the convergence? What does the marker want that it needs all these corpses around it for? What is the goal for it? And I love that the game does not answer that. You don't get to know that until Dead Space 3. And I will say it is moderately satisfying. It's a bit of a not to let anyone down.
Yeah, spoilers for next year when we have the Dead Space 3 for October. Yeah, there's a lot of things that Dead Space 3 does shittily, but there's a lot of things that's really, really good and fun about. And concluding the story, I think it actually does pretty decently, other than its cliffhanger / post cliffhanger ending type shit. But like, if you just finish Dead Space 3 and where the right when the credits end, you're just like, okay, that's it. It's a pretty good wrap to the story.
Pretty good wrap.
Not comparable to Halo 3, though. It's not like Halo 3 level, you know? Halo 3 is perfect. It's better than Halo 2, arguably, you know? Dead Space 3, not so much.
Yeah, so then after Nicole's like, oh, we're so close to the marker. We can take care of this. And I always forget for this scene. Isaac took his helmet off to talk to Nicole, and then when the cutscene ends, he doesn't put his helmet back on. And this happened to me last night. I was like, oh, well, he didn't put his helmet on. I forgot about that. And then he goes to the next room, and I go, oh, fuck me, it's this room.
That's exactly what I did on stream earlier. I was like, oh, this is one of the weird parts of the game where he doesn't immediately put his helmet back on after a dialogue. You can walk around and interact with things without his helmet on. And then I opened the next door, and I'm like, oh, that's why, because he would have immediately taken it right back off, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so to give context of how much I love this game. I adore it. It's not perfect, but I do. This is one of the only moments I can't. I've played this successfully by myself twice. The last time I played Dead Space 2, I believe I was 22, 23 years old, and my brother was hanging out with me. I had to have my little brother do it for me, who was like, I think 15 at the time, because I hate this segment so much. I can't look at the screen. I played today. I played last night, and I was on my Discord with I was on call with Kit Kat in the chat. I had to cover. I was like,
I played it, and I like literally couldn't look at the screen while I was doing it. So we'll stop beating around the bush. So you walk into the room, and it's finally the machine that's been talked about. And it is where the steps are performed. So it is basically like an MRI machine, but different. So it's like a lay down table with a sort of cage over you that can like scan and do things on you, and then it's got like a 3D printer arm that has like a it's a needle, but it's more than a needle. It's like a data uplink thing that like plugs into your brain. So step
So
one is you crawl inside the machine. Step
correct,
two
agreed.
is the little things come out and screw your head in, go tight all around. And do you remember what
Step
step three
three,
is?
cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye. Because what we
Yeah.
find out is that the machine activates the marker signals in your brain, but the only way to get to your brain is through your eyeball. So it has to jam a needle through your eye into your brain. And I will say, this is
It's fucked up because
it
they make you, the player, do this. It's not a cutscene.
but it's
You have to
also
do this shit.
the fucked up part is I think the fucked up part is it's not hard to do. Like because the whole point is that you control the needle to move it around, you press the A or X button to make it to progress the needle downwards. But if it's got a little laser sight onto it, like lock onto his iris, his pupil and iris. If it's blue, you're safe. If it's red, it's not safe. And if you screw up, it's an insta kill, and you have to redo the entire part. I was not looking at the screen. I covered up the part where his eye was. All I didn't move the stick once. I just kept tapping the A button every time I turned blue, and I got it my first try. And it's like, oh, this is not difficult. They did not have to do this. This could have been a cutscene, but they wanted the player to feel this squeamish,
They
uncomfortable
wanted this
fear.
player to feel this that I have felt for fucking 20 years or 10 years on this game. This fucking game. Oh my God. Last night, and still just even talking about it gives me genuinely heebie-jeebies. I've always had a thing about eyeballs. Like, I can't stand like eye things, you know? Like, it's just.
I'm the same. I'm the same exact way. I cannot stand it. I don't like it. I have a relative that had like eye surgery recently. She's like, and she wasn't being vindictive. She's telling me, I'm like, stop, 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 stop. I don't want to hear it. I can't hear it. I'm happy you can see. I'm happy it went well. Do not tell me about anything else. I'm sorry. I was like gagging over like while we were having dinner. It's like,
Yeah, I'm gonna have like
thank
a
you,
panic
eyeballs.
attack about it. I don't want to hear about it. No, thank you. And it's absolutely fucked. If you manage to not do it correctly, yeah, you just instantly die. So you managed to do it. The needle goes in there, and it's a long, drawn out scene of it sticking into his eye, and I can picture it perfectly in my face right now, of it sticking in his eye, and the screen turning, and all the marker symbols flying on the screen, and then it just comes out, and well, you've already kind of done step 4, so I guess you skipped to step 4, and now you had to do 1 through 3, you know, whatever. And you crawl out of the machine, and Nicole has gone Super Saiyan, like angel mode. She's now like an energy being, and like emitting like ball of light around her.
Because the marker information in your brain has been activated finally for the first time in who knows how long. That's why they kept. I guess we mentioned earlier, but I guess we should mention real quick is that's why Strauss and Isaac were giving memory suppressing drugs. That's why Isaac had amnesia because it's to suppress the marker information in their head. Because, like I mentioned before, one of the markers' main job is to drive people crazy, and that includes the makers. So the makers just have like again they have the acute form of dementia or schizophrenia. So if they're left alone for too long, the marker signals will progress in their mind, making them more efficient to build markers, but they become more rational, more dangerous, and they're more threat to themselves. So what Timon did was they had the doctors like suppress the marker signals from growing in their heads by giving them memory suppressing drugs, giving them basically constantly forcefully giving them amnesia so that the marker would not get more control over their brains.
It
But
would physically be progressing, but not like psychologically. It's very
yeah,
effectively dampening the psychological effects of it because
that's
they can't remember, and it's like literally walled off by a fog of drug and forgetting.
yeah, that's why Isaac is pretty much normal in the beginning of the game. He because it's a good little while before you see Nicole for the first time once the game actually starts because he doesn't again he has no memory so like the marker hasn't affected him much yet. It has to kick back in. That's why as the game progresses you see Nicole more and more. You see more like those weird dementia moments where you see things that aren't there. It's a very good I think tonally it's great and for the pacing of the meta story they're going for. I think they did it very well. But now Nicole is a weird god being. Isaac got a needle in his eye, and they're in the end game now. It's like all I have to do is get to the marker, and then once again, shit hits the fan for Isaac specifically.
Yeah, because as soon as you end up talking to Nicole, she says, "I'll meet you at the marker. Follow me." Blah, blah, blah. She like disappears, and
She
then
says that exactly.
Yeah, you pulled the video. I guarantee that's the exact line. I quoted it perfectly. And then out of the wall busts the Ubermorph, who is... It's identical in every way to the Hunter situation in Dead Space 1, except just in a different area and like a different objective. And he looks cooler. So, the point of this Necromorph is he just regenerates. You can't actually kill him. You can blow off his limbs, and then he'll regenerate them. No matter which limbs you blow off, they will all regenerate, but they regenerate at different paces unless you blow them all off. There's different ways to deal with him depending on your gun set. Usually the best way is you just blow off all 4 limbs and stasis him to extend his regeneration as long as possible.
And I do want to make a quick note that a lot of people don't seem to notice this, that the Ubermorph looks different than the Hunter from the first game. They're both regenerators. They're both slasher-style Necromorphs. But my favorite part about the Ubermorph is the fact that it has 5 eyeballs in that weird position.
They're like weird eye stalks.
Yes, because that is supposed to be the regenerator. The Hunter in the first game was man-made by Dr. What's his face, the crazy guy that worshipped Unitology. The Ubermorph was made naturally. It was a very rare creation of Necromorphs. And the reason I can tell you that is because the 5 eyes, that is the same setup as the hive mind from Dead Space 1, the final boss, which was the perfect Necromorph. When you get to the face, it's like it had those 5 stalks where the weak points were. So basically, I haven't seen evidence of this, but I always believe that the Ubermorph is a baby hive mind. If you let it grow long enough and gestate,
it can become like a supermorph like that.
It would turn into another hive mind style Necromorph, because the hive mind, again, it didn't regenerate, but it was so big and powerful that unless you hit it specifically its weak points, it would just brush them off, much like a Ubermorph would, just like the Ubermorph the Hunter did. So I believe that this is my headcanon. Maybe there's like information backing this up in the lore. I believe the Ubermorph was like a infant hive mind growing. But that's just a theory.
So to call back to Callisto, it's like the alpha strain. It comes out naturally. Yes. You can't do it in a lab. It comes out naturally, and then it's going to become the apex of its species.
Yes, but unlike the alpha strain of Callisto Protocol, this isn't fucking stupid. This was actually cool.
This isn't fucking stupid. Yeah, fair.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, so the Ubermorph is now chasing you throughout the remains of the government sector, which is... It's actually pretty simple. It's mostly just a bunch of hallways you have to get through to like run to elevators and just find the next section.
But yeah, the rest of the game is mostly just sprinting and running and gunning. Like here, let me just read my notes.
It's just like the final trials. You have to get through a bunch of it. They throw a bunch of Necromorphs at you, a lot of elites. But unlike a lot of the other parts of the game, you don't have to fight them all. Like this section of the game, I just grabbed the force gun and I would just hit them with the force gun, stasis them while they're on the ground, and just keep moving.
And just run towards the doorway till it opens, because none of the doors are locked. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just run, stun them, and then just keep going, because I was trying to save as much health and ammo as I possibly could. There's only like the only rooms that you don't have to fight everything is just basically where the rooms like the locks, the electronic locks that you had to break. Is like, okay, I had to fight the Ubermorph to stop him while I could break, just so I could shoot the locks free. Because I learned the hard way that the force gun does not break those locks. You have to either punch it or use the
like the fuses.
Yeah, the fuses.
Yeah, I always punch those to save ammo.
Well, I tried just doing it in the moment. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. The force gun is weird. It does physical damage in a different way. So like, it doesn't really work on technology or anything around it. It would just it's basically just a giant air gun, if you want to like dumb it down to its final level.
So it can't really press buttons. It doesn't have like a finger.
It can't break shit, except like it would just blow off limbs, because that's just what an air gun can do. Yeah.
It can't interact with like weak spots typically either. A good example is like the egg sac guys with the big mutated arm. If you shoot them with a force gun, it'll kill them, but it won't sever their arm, because it doesn't sever limbs that way. And it won't blow up the egg sac unless you shoot it directly with the alt fire, which is like a... If you imagine the force gun as like, not a cone, because it's not a cone, but like a really wide and thin wall that it shoots forward and pushes, the alt fire of it condenses it all into like a poster tube and then pokes it forward really quickly.
Yeah, like so you took all that energy and put it in like an inch wide circumference beam. So it's just like it's very specific. It's a slow shot, but it does a lot of damage on one specific target. Which is it's again, I think it's a very good balance. Even though I almost never use the alt fire, I pretty much only use the standard fire because that was great crowd control.
I use the alt fire on the spitters because the elite spitters do not die in one hit to almost anything in the game. I haven't tried using the contact beam, but I assume it's still maybe a 1 or 2 hit.
I never used the contact beam. It was too slow for me.
Well, when you max upgrade, it's turbo quick, and one-shotting enemies really helps. Anyway, so I would use the alt fire, knock them on the ground, allowing me to sprint up to them and shoot them with 3 more force guns, killing them.
I will say though, one of my complaints about this game is that the Ubermorph doesn't really get a satisfying conclusion to it, like the hunter.
You
does
don't
in the
kill
first
it.
game.
No, you don't deal with it at all.
Yeah, in the first game, you have to like trap the hunter, but like cut off its limbs and stasis it, so it's behind the escape shuttle they have, and then you test the engine so it just melts it. It's faster than it can regenerate. It's really satisfying because it's been chasing you the entire game. And then in the Ubermorph, it's just you just run into a room, you just run away from it, and just stops following you, which I always thought was like. I'm not obviously you're at the end. It's the very end of the game. Like the very next room after the Ubermorph is the final boss, but it just feels like you could have given us something, or like at least like just electrocute or something. Again, you know what? There's a bunch of exposed wires. Maybe it's like maybe knock it. Like one of the moments you can do is like you can just knock it against the wire, so it's like it doesn't get killed, but it's like it's being shocked, so it can't move anymore, so it's like stuck there permanently. Something just. It's not a complaint. It's not something that really matters, but it's like the Ubermorph is such a cool design, and the last game had such satisfying conclusions to it. It just feels like, a little bit weak.
Yeah, a little rushed and a small complaint. I mean, a valid complaint though is they throw the Ubermorph at you, and then it's basically just run to the end of the game. Now there's nothing else to do. Maybe a couple more audio logs, but now you did your species, you did your surgery, and now you know everything you need to know. You have your lore drop, so just run to the end of the game. And as you said, there's not a satisfying conclusion to it. The Ubermorph only is presented to you as the player mechanically, so it says run. You can't linger any longer. You need to keep moving because there's this unstoppable force coming at you that you don't have infinite ammo for. So keep running to the boss, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then literally it's just once you get past the Ubermorph section, you just walk through a hallway, and then you're at the final boss. And it's a very unforgiving. It's one of the most unforgiving checkpoints I've ever seen in the game, because if you die to this boss, you have to watch the entire cutscene over and over again.
I think you're giving this way too much attention and credit. Tideman is the easiest fucking boss ever. Literally, you walk down the fucking little walkway, and then he's like right next to Nicole, so he's like covered in light, and then he shoots you with a couple of javelins. You pull them out because you're a man, and then you shoot him with his own javelin gun. It's a super easy boss fight.
I wish producer Chris was here so he could play the Homer Simpson boo sound effect. That's not the final boss. That's just a little quick time event you have to do. But it's satisfying. You finally get to blow off Tideman's head, which is what you want to do since pretty much the first hour of the game.
I made sure not to blow off his head. I shot him in like the base of the neck where the other one was in, so it just like knocked him onto the ground, didn't knock his head off.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. I always just shot him in the head because that's where like the reticle for the gun just always points at. It's like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna blow his head off. I did not know you could do something other than that. That's interesting.
I was really hoping you could shoot him and then alt fire it, but that's not an option.
No, oh yeah, the electrified one. It's also funny because he does shoot you with a gun that you like. Usually with like all the CSEC guys or these guys, they shoot you with
pulse rifles and guns.
The pulse rifle, but this one's like he specifically has the javelin launcher because it's the only one that won't kill you right away, which is. But it's also very satisfying to blow his head off with a giant pole arm.
Yeah, very, very nice little thing. Then you meet up with Nicole right there, and she's like, all right, so cool. Now you're here, and it's time
she
to
hugs Isaac.
Die. And he's like,
what?
You pranked me? I thought we were cool, babe. Babe, I thought we were cool. I dumped Ellie so we could get back together, and now you're telling me that you're pranking me. You're dogging on me. You know what? I'm calling Ellie. Fuck you. whatever. I'm gonna kill you,
Well,
call Ellie, and hook up with her.
yeah, it's conceptually a very interesting boss fight. I will say I've always hated this boss because it's got my least favorite thing in it. But after just being completely overpowered, and that boss fight took maybe 30 seconds for me in this version, it's not as bad as I remember. But it's very interesting because again, she hugs Isaac, and he's kind of, it's the first time they touch each other, and then she's like, "Time to die." What? And then she does a weird demon scream, and then
They go into like a psychic realm. Yeah.
You go into Isaac's brain. It's all everything is because it's so cool because the animation we're going in, you see like all these brain cells. That's the same thing you see at the title screen of the game.
Yeah, it's the main menu. It's the same like brain cortexes and neurons and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
And the boss is Nicole herself, and what she's saying is like, "Oh, I need to kill you because once I do, we'll be whole again. All the information that you have will go back to the marker, and convergence can go through. And if I don't, you are the final piece that can destroy the marker. So you are our greatest ally. You're our greatest asset, but you're also our greatest threat to us." And then Isaac says, "This line's always stuck with me." Very eloquently says, "God damn it, I trusted you. Fuck you and fuck your marker." And the boss fight is it's not as straightforward as the hive mind from Dead Space 1. You have to attack Nicole to the point where she does enough damage, she disappears, and then a marker in the background breaks open, and it's like a giant heart. That's the main health bar. You have to do damage to Nicole to get to the health bar. Pretty straightforward, except the horde attacks you, like a bunch of shadowy demon children attack you from all over the place, which is like, again, it's not too bad, but
what's the one-shot mechanic? Because I've never died in this boss fight.
Oh yeah, no. The one-shot mechanic is Nicole is constantly tracing after the entire match. She moves very slowly, but she's always like set to you specifically. If she touches you, you die. What she does when that happens, like her touching you is getting control over your body. So then it zooms back out, and it's Isaac, and he puts the javelin gun into up to his chin and blows his head off with it. And it's a very long cutscene, and then you have to watch the whole cutscene over again. So it's very annoying to die because you have to keep doing that. When I was a kid and I was very bad at this game playing Zealot mode, it took me it took me 15 tries to beat that final boss. It's very irritating.
I thought I was misremembering the boss fight because of how much you talk about you disliking this boss fight and it being like just shitty. And I was like, isn't it just like you shooting Nicole like 5 or 6 times, then the fight's over?
A big chunk of it was sour grapes, I admit that, but I still don't like the fact that a final boss has a instant kill mechanic. I think that's very cheap. Again, it's cool
unless it's like a cutscene instant kill mechanic. Like if they put you in a QTE or like something and you like fail a prompt and then you die instantly, that's different.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to survive. It's more okay with it, but if she touches, I think she gets within about 2 feet of you in game.
She puts you in a cutscene lock.
Yeah, she grabs you, she screams in your face, and then it zooms back out, and then Isaac kills himself because she was able to take control of his body for the moment, and he's just holding a giant gun that can kill him in one shot. I will say, though, that boss fight is trivialized if you have the... excuse me. Hiccups there. That's a professional of me. It trivializes if you have the force gun, which, again, I never tried until this game. The force gun is now in my permanent rotation for whenever I play Dead Space 2 now. Because it's not so much Nicole is the problem, it's that the horde is the real issue because they keep attacking. They don't do a whole lot of damage. They're very weak, but their job is to basically chip away your health or stun. There's an animation if there's like 2 or 3 of you at the same time. You have to do a button mashing segment to throw them all off you, and that gives Nicole time to get closer to you, which is obviously very bad. But the boss fight itself, yeah, it's my own incompetence why I didn't like it, but I stand firm on the insta kill thing. That's the one thing I will not budge on.
If she didn't have an instant kill, I'm not sure what the boss fight could be. If she had a lot more health and she didn't instant kill you and like took out half your health, like with the mini cutscene, like choking you, that'd be different. Anyway, there's a couple of ways to make it a better boss fight. It is, and I will agree with you, not a good boss fight.
It's serviceable.
Nicole walks at you like Michael Myers, and you have to kill her to turn her into a ghost for a couple of seconds. Like you said, a big health bar opens up in the background, and you shoot the health bar, and then the game ends. If you have the contact beam and you have it upgraded, it shoots. Okay, let me preface it by saying the contact beam is like the strongest weapon in the game. In most circumstances, it one-shots things, and in circumstances outside of that, it'll like one shot weak spots on things. So if there's like a berserker enemy running at you and he's got like one weak spot, you can just and just blow off that whole limb immediately. It's really good. It always out of the box does maximum damage. You can get extra damage out of it from DLC stuff, which is of course why wouldn't you? And the way to squeeze the more damage out of it is to get the charge speed on it and the capacity, so you can continuously fire it, because the reload speed is what gets you on the contact beam. So if you can constantly keep putting out beams, the gun is it's basically just like a Spartan laser. It just shoots really quickly. It just laser. I think in my fight it took 2 lasers to kill Nicole, and then 2 lasers to kill the heart, and then repeat once. So 8 lasers.
I think I spent about maybe 30 plasma cutter ammo taking that out, because I had a maxed out damage plasma cutter, which does crazy damage when you use it. No, it's well, yeah, it's if you have maxed out damage on a gun, it doesn't take very long. Uh, just going back to the Nicole part, I think you were on the right track. I think all they really had to do for that, very simply, is that Nicole chases you and she grabs you, and you get a QTA like button matching event, which slowly drains your health the longer she has a hold of you. And when it hits 0, then it kills you. So it's not an insta kill, but it's to drain your health slowly, I think, but it gives you a fighting chance. I think that would have been a fair middle ground between what they want to do and what is fair to the player. But again, I'm also a whiny little bitch, so partially that's on me. I own that.
Once you damage the core enough, the possession of Nicole in your brain ends. The marker doesn't just instantly explode. All the Necromorphs don't just die in like a huge psychic wave, like when you kill a crap, I forget what they're called, but like the very big Tyranids, and then they die, and all the little ones just die. It's not like that. It just zooms back out. Isaac's like, whoa. Well, I guess I win, and then just kind of falls down and sits down, and then you hear over the radio that the reactor and other systems on the station are going critical, so the station's going to blow up anyway. So it doesn't matter that you didn't blow up the marker. The station's going to blow up the marker. You just stopped Nicole from killing you, activating convergence fully. It's starting to activate, but, you know, it can't get all the way there because it's being held up by you. You're like kind of a... You're like a big clog in the vein right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's very interesting just the way that marker is destroyed, is because when you beat the marker in your brain, it just immediately falls into pieces. You don't see it happen. It's no grandiose like, oh, it explodes. It's just falling apart, and the glowing is gone, and there's not all the necromorphs and corpses around you just gone. They just fall over dead. It's I kind of like how unsatisfying that is, because all the cool stuff is in your mind.
Yep.
Yeah, so and then
well, the game would end here, except if you remember about 20 minutes ago, we mentioned that Isaac pulled a hero move and said, no, babe, you go on without me. I have to go down with the ship, and sent her out with the ship. And then she was like, oh, well, since the nav system shot, you didn't just send me on a court. You discoupled the ship from the station, and then I just have a ship now. I swear to God,
he's dying.
Spectrum is the
like
fucking worst.
I was definitely vamping the entire time and didn't realize that these were
I covered this earlier on Warp Zone, Spectrum is fucking ass, and I'm literally going to look into an alternate ISP because this is unacceptable to do while I'm broadcasting. If this is happening while I'm gaming, it's a little bit different. Whatever, during the day. When I'm broadcasting, I expect decent connection. That is the most. That's the minimum I can ask for. That's the most I can ask for. Can you just have a connection internet? Fuck.
I will say I could hear you, but you are a little staticky sounding. So we should probably try to wrap this up within the next like 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
gonna
even know
let
if- I don't
I'm
even
gonna
know
let
if
you
we're live
do.
anymore at this point.
I'm gonna let you do most of the talking because like you said, I don't have a great connection. So the game ends here with Ellie coming to pick you up and Isaac launching his little jet boosters up into the atmosphere to go catch the gunship.
Yeah, and it's another one of those if you die here, it's an insta kill death kind of things, which isn't normally that bad thing because it just resets you back to like that little checkpoints. It's only if you use the boosters the entire time, it takes less than 50. It's like 30 seconds, maybe 15 seconds, like minimum, to get it done. But the problem is if you're playing hardcore mode, which is the challenge that you get to have 3 saves. Anytime you die, it resets your last save. That is specifically to fuck you over. So if you die here, you have to do the final boss again. And it's about the difficulty of Zealot, but that's still a pain to have to redo. Uh, but it's not too bad. It's one of those things like it's like all the other like flying segments. It's you can dodge pretty easily. And then eventually, he's like, "Oh, I'm right here. Reach your hand out." So you grab her. You manage to get to her. You grab her hand. You button mash, and you pull on yourself on the ship, and you get away. And it's kind of a cute ending because Isaac's. It's the same exact pose Isaac takes at the ending of Dead Space One, where he's on the escape shuttle he had. He's like looking around, and then he's like, "There's a moment he like looks, and then he just turns over to Ellie, and this expecting like a demon there. She goes, "What are you looking at?" And then it just rolls credits.
The game doesn't have a lot of comedy
like
moments,
lot
but
just
it's
because
a nice
like,
touch.
it's like it's a little comedy, but it's also like he's finally done. He's finally moved on to Nicole. The markers are gone. And it's like he could just this is like the one moment of uh tranquility he gets the entire franchise up until this point, which is for Dead Space specifically is a very, very, very valuable and rare moment. Um, and then roll credits, and then uh there's the post credit scene where like you get like more government officials talking about it, and I always forget what they say because I don't really care too much.
He's saying that
Do you have any memory?
marker site 12 has failed. So the other site are going to have to pick up their pieces.
Yeah.
Meaning that there's at least 12, maybe more sites.
Yeah, which spoiler alert for Dead Space 3, that never gets brought back. They never talk about the other marker sites at all. There's no more talk about other markers being developed by humans. It's a real letdown. And that ties into the final topic I really want to discuss for this video or this podcast is the Dead Space 2 Severed DLC, which is a 2-chapter story DLC that takes place with a new character named what's his last name again? Hold on. Gabe Weller, a security officer for the Sprawl, who some of you, if you're a big Dead Space fan, had played Dead Space Extraction, the Wii game. He is one of the characters in that game that survived the mining incident on e27. So Severed is basically just after the events that took place before Dead Space 1 on e27 when the first outbreak of Necromorphs happened on the planet. Gabe somehow escapes. It's been a very long time since I played that game. I forgot the specific story points, and it's not a really amazing game.
Not
either.
that important.
I apologize. Really. Fun railgun shooter though, very fun. And he ends up being a security officer on the Sprawl, and this takes place at the exact same time as the beginning of Dead Space 2, or maybe a little bit after it. Around the time Isaac wakes up, the outbreak has already happened. And Gabe is the only surviving member of his security crew because he's the only one that had experience with fighting necromorphs. So he knew how to fight them and how to survive. And all he wants to do is find his wife Lexi and Lexine, sorry, stupid British names, and just find her and get the two of them off the Sprawl. And it's very simple and it's fun because they just reuse the areas from Dead Space 2, but in reverse order. And a couple of there's 2 areas that aren't in Isaac's campaign. There's a fun moment that's like it's a king of the hill kind of situation where you're on top of a platform and you basically have to like stay alive for like
Oh,
5
that's
minutes
cool.
while a horde of enemies attacks you. It's like it's very simple, it's very fun, and also Gabe has like my favorite armor set in the entire franchise. It's just it looks like one of the Mark II suits that you get in Dead Space 2. Like there's the three main suits. There's the engineering ones. There's like the ones that have like the two lines, and then there's the advanced suit sets.
Mhm.
His looks like the two line ones, but he's got a cool. He's got two like scopes on his one side. It's
Right, yeah, I've
awesome
seen his
looking,
helmet,
but
it's
it's
cool.
only for him, which sucks. Yeah, and he's just basically trying to find his wife Lexine to get her off so the two of them can get off the space station. There, I don't know. I don't remember a lot of the key points for that. It's just he's trying to find her, walking through the sprawl, walking through the mines, and then the final area of the game is actually the beginning of the game for Isaac, where you go up to the medical wing and you have to go through the psych ward, where the you mentioned earlier the scene where you see the video of Strauss the first time, and he's like talking the his doctor's like, oh, we need to up your meds and move for more of
Mhm.
those. And there's like these little it's like psychotic how they lay this out. They have the cells for the patients, but they're underground under like these glass floors, and you can just see them.
Ooh, that's fucked.
And it's
Yeah.
and Lexine is in one of them for some reason. I forgot why. And like, there's this other security officer that I think is trying to betray Gabe. I forgot. Forgive me. This is not available on Steam or PC. That's why this all met very rough for me. Two guys in white suits show up and they're just like, they're there's some little information for the extended universe. They're called oracles. They show up and like, oh, we want the woman. It's like, what are you talking about? They just kill him using their weird special. They have like kinesis and stasis rings, like so. It's not just like big like armor builds like Isaac has. It's like they're wearing white suits and they just come up, kill the guy, and just walk off with her because apparently she's pregnant with Gabe's child, obviously, but she was also part of the Oracle program. So without them realizing, she was in some sort of experimentation, and she's very important to it. Now, looking into this, the Oracles are a very, very secretive group of the Earth Gov, where basically they are specifically designed to deal with Necromorphs, and they
Oh.
clearly are so much higher than Tideman. The security officer's like, "Oh, my job is Tideman ordered me here." It's like, "What did you?" And they're like, "We don't care about Tideman. We were way above him. Our bosses are so above his pay grade. Tideman doesn't know we exist." Um, and then it just ends with they get so, these specialists that are designed to fight with necromorphs. They get attacked by infectors. They turn into necromorphs, which are like the Dead Space One, which are it's like the only two in the entire game. It's kind of cool that they brought him back. Uh, Gabe gets his wife on the ship. A guy blows the other CSEC or security officer that hates him blows a grenade at him, blows off his leg. And so what Gabe does is just opens the airlocks to let her out so she can runs away. And then you say, okay, Gabe's body, and then you get a message from Earth Guys like, oh, Gabe's body has been recovered for observation. Lexine is still nowhere to be found.
Ooh,
And that
okay.
is the last time in the entire franchise in any capacity they mention either of them. So as well as the Oracles outside of one comic book, that is why I believe that the Severed DLC is not on PC because EA realizes like, oh, we set this like big universal thing up and then we never talk about it again. So I think they don't put it on PC because they're trying to write it out of canon. It's my like tinfoil hat theory, but Dead Space 3 has no mention of the oracles to my knowledge, and they don't mention like any of this or like these secret government officers because they focus more on unitologists in that game,
Mhm.
which I don't think is as interesting, frankly. I think it's just like they're like, oh, we could just try to make this work better, but instead we're just going to completely write it out, even though there was something they had really cool world building in that game, but they just didn't want to. They couldn't be bothered enough to make it work.
It's upsetting that they don't do a little bit more with